In July 1999, Lance Armstrong went out on his bike for a six-pack. If everything goes according to plan, he'll be back with it in 3 weeks as the first man to win half a dozen Tours de France. Only 4 other riders have ever won 5 Tours, and none of that legendary quartet, not even the great Eddie Merckx, could manage a 6th. Armstrong's ride into history begins in Merckx's backyard, the Tour this year starting in the Belgian city of Liège. And as ever, the opening stage is the Prologue, 6 kilometres flat out against the clock through the city streets. They're the first 6 of nearly 3,400, which lie between the riders and the finish line in Paris. Half a dozen, it's a phrase you use about eggs, things you might pick up at the supermarket, not Tour de France victories. But Lance Armstrong knows this year that he's just one bike ride away from being the only man in Tour history to be able to count his wins on the fingers of more than one hand. However, all the historical evidence says that it's going to be a massive task to pull off, and even the famously focused Armstrong arrived in Liège struggling to keep it all in perspective.
It's never been done. It's legendary, but I can't think about that. I have to think about, I mean, sitting here today, I have to think about the Prologue. Okay, what's the Prologue like? After that, I have to think about the TTT. And if we make it to the end and it shakes out that I win again, then, man, I guess I can comment on it then and say how I feel. But I refuse to think about that and put myself in that position now, because I think that's the worst karma you could ever create. And sort of, I mean, how the hell can you write your victory speech before you've ridden 3 weeks of hard bike races? And I'm not doing that. There's, especially this year, there's a lot of guys that are good, and it's going to be tight.
So who, if anybody, can beat Armstrong? Well, while the American's going for his 6th win, Germany's Jan Ullrich will be trying to avoid his 6th second place in this race. The 1997 champion pushed Armstrong incredibly close last year, and he leads the pack of contenders again this year.
I hope. I make good training before and I feel me good. I have a strong team and I hope I can win.
Spain's Ivan Mayo has already beaten Armstrong this year. In fact, he hammered him in an uphill time trial last month. But Mayo knows that beating Lance in June and repeating the trick in July are totally different propositions.
Yo saldré con la aspiración máxima y veremos hasta dónde puedo llegar, pero bueno, yo tanto como ganar no diría, ¿no? Me gustaría a una etapa y estar en el podium, igual es más posible ganar, me queda un poco grande igual todavía.
Armstrong's old teammate Tyler Hamilton is more upbeat about his chances. Hamilton finished an astonishing 4th last year after riding with a broken collarbone for 3 weeks. This year, he has a new team custom built to help him take on his old leader.
My objective, the team's objective, is to win. It's clear. I'm confident in the team, I'm confident in myself. It really comes down to me. Certainly there's a lot of pressure on me, but I feel like I have the best of everything, so now no excuses now for me.
Another US postal defector has joined the enemy this year. Roberto Arras used to be Armstrong's chief protector in the mountains. Now, as leader of his own team, the Spanish climber will be one more dangerous attacker for the defending champion to worry about.
No lo sé. Venimos preparados para intentarlo. Hay muchos candidatos a la victoria. Vamos a intentarlo al menos.
And he's got to take on the course as well this year, which some people think has been designed to make it more difficult for him. They've taken out the first week time trial, which is usually where he builds up a big lead over his rivals. Let's take a look at the route now. Well, the Tour certainly gets its money's worth out of Belgium this year, with the Prologue and 2 stages before the race leaves Waterloo for Pascal, heading back into France by the bone-shaking cobbles of the famous Paris-Roubaix one-day race. There's a rule change in the team time trial this year, which may help some of Lance Armstrong's rivals. Then the sprinters will lead the pack on a high-speed chase cross-country all the way to the Atlantic coast. Week 2 starts with a plane journey to Limoges for the first of 2 rest days. Then it's south through the vineyards, ignoring the pre-tasting signs, and into the Pyrenees. This is where the battle between the defending champion and the men who reckon they're strong enough to attack him will really start. The highlights will be consecutive mountain-top finishes at La Mongie and Plateau de Bay, both stages that Armstrong has won before. After another day's rest, the riders head up to the Alps and the first individual time trial of the race. It's only 15 kilometres long. Those 15 kilometres are up the legendary climb of Alpe d'Huez. The Tour's most famous mountain has never been used for a time trial before, and this promises to be a classic stage. No sooner are the riders out of the Alps than they face the Tour's second individual time trial. The 60 kilometres against the clock around Besançon could well decide the race, and if they don't, then it'll have to be decided on the Champs-Élysées. Now, usually the Prologue is full of home interest in the form of David Miller. Not this year, though. As you might have read in the newspapers, Britain's World Time Trial champion is out of the race after confessing to the use of the performance-enhancing drug EPO. And while the rest of the riders were lining up for their pre-race medicals here in Liège, David was locked in judges' chambers across the French border in Nanterre, answering a series of highly uncomfortable questions. The rest of his Cofidis team is here, of course, but understandably not starting the race in the best frame of mind.
Shocked and, yeah, feel sorry for Dave. It's a good friend of mine and always will be, and you know, think times like this is going to need more support than anything. So just thinking of him.
Now, David has more than just missing the Tour to worry about. He's already out of Britain's Olympic team for Athens, and once he's had time to speak to Cofidis management, he'll very likely be out of a job. Well, the Prologue course in Liège may well have suited David Miller, but of course we'll never know now. 6.1 kilometres, some cobbled stretches and a couple of tricky corners that could turn treacherous if it rained. And having lost David Miller to the legal system, Cofidis proceeded to lose a rider on the warm-up ride. The Australian Matt White, who should have been starting his first Tour de France, came off after hitting a television cable just off the route and headed off to hospital instead with a suspected broken collarbone. Once the race started, another Aussie went down, Michael Rogers touching the tarmac with a pedal and losing himself any chance of taking the early race lead. As we join the action, that is in the possession of the Spaniard Oscar Pereiro, a member of Tyler Hamilton's Phonak squad.
Well, we're looking now at Fabian Cancellara here, Paul. He has, he won't know, of course, the drama at the other end with Jens Voigt just losing first place by 0.02 of a second. Whatever did we do without the clocks in the old days with the old finger and thumb and the stopwatch? Because there's no way we could split these riders without the electronic timing these days. Cancellara has been talked about by a lot of people as the one man who could challenge the big boys in the Prologue time trial. And I think they may have just reason to do that now.
We expected this man to put in a fine performance, and look at that, he's well inside. He's the fastest man to that corner so far, and I think he's not going to fade at all. He's a very big, strong bike rider, Phil. This is a new best time.
This is a new best time, his first ever day in his first ever Tour de France. He's on top of the leaderboard, 6:50.93. That is a superb time. Jan Ullrich, he says, I'm tired of finishing second, and he knows better than most. He's done it 5 times. It's a long time since he won this race in 1997. I don't know if you can hear the crowd, but we can. They are screaming at Jan Ullrich. He is the pin-up boy of world cycling. They say he has more talent in his body than any current cyclist.
The one man to add to that is Lance Armstrong, who has always regarded this man here in pink and white of T-Mobile as the most talented bike rider on the circuit. He is a powerful bike rider. He came from an East German upbringing to win the Tour de France a few years ago, but since then he's been dogged by illness and injury and defeat as well. 3 times at the hands of Lance Armstrong. And you're right, Phil, this year he doesn't want to be beaten again. He wants to be the #1 dog.
Well, he's on his way, Jan Ullrich, and that means there's only one man left to start his test now, and time is nearly up. Armstrong is in the start house. We'll see him very shortly. Ahead of Ullrich is Hamilton, ahead of Hamilton is Mayo, behind them all is Armstrong, almost impervious to the noise going on about him as he now concentrates. The countdown. Armstrong launches into his Tour de France. Will it be a record-breaking race for him? He looks for win number 6. He says, I'm not thinking of Paris. I'm taking this day by day and assessing it as I go. Well, he's off.
Look at the powerhouse from Germany here. This
look at
man
those legs.
is
Look at those muscles.
unbelievable.
They're like pistons, the huge muscles there that are pumping round these pedals. They're all to reach the 3.1 kilometre check at the moment, and that's where we'll get our first indication. But Mayo's there. Mayo's gone through 13 seconds off Cancellara's race time. Cancellara still looking set to win this Prologue.
Look at the comparison between the 2 riders. We've just got a glimpse there of the way they were pedaling. Ivan Basso, he's a man who I think can finish in the top 5, is coming into the finishing straight. Won't be too happy with this time. He's going to finish fairly close to 50th position, but more importantly, he's going to lose himself almost half a minute on Fabian Cancellara.
This is Lance Armstrong. Those legs, once they catch up with the cadence, he just sits there and pumps.
He has got an incredible cadence here. He's able to accelerate quickly.
Paul Ulrich has gone through, same time as Tyler Hamilton at 3.1 kilometres covered. They are locked together. Now we're waiting for Lance to get there.
10 seconds adrift. 10 seconds those two men have gone through slower than Fabian Cancellara. We're looking here at Alessandro Patacchi. This sprint in a couple of days' time will be in front of a huge bunch.
He's practicing there.
Practicing the lunge for the line. It's 55th place for him. But we're now waiting. In the next 30 seconds or so, we should get an indication of how Lance Armstrong is riding. He actually looks pretty good to me.
He looks very fast to me, but we don't know. Ulrich and Tyler Hamilton virtually same time at that check. No time. Armstrong is there. He is lying in second place. He is only 2 seconds off the win. It is possible.
Watch out for the corner. This is the corner that has been the undoing for several riders. He went round there very carefully, didn't touch his brakes. He went in at the right speed. He's in the right gear to accelerate away. We're now looking at Iban Mayo, fourth from the end. A good ride, though, by him.
Well, this is amazing now. Mayo is doing a good ride. The man that can't ride a time trial is at least not going to lose that many seconds. But Cancellara is just about holding off the man from the Tour de France. Lance Armstrong has gone through only 2 seconds down, and the good riders should accelerate as they come up towards the line. I don't think deep down, Paul, we expected a win from Armstrong today.
I don't think Armstrong expected it, but he did want to go out today and serve a bitter psychological blow to everybody else. You know, at 3.1 kilometres, Cancellara still has the fastest time of 3:18, but Armstrong is only 2 seconds slower than him at this point, and I'm sure that information has gone forward to this man, the big German challenger.
Oh dear, Paul, 8 seconds difference at the halfway mark. Greg LeMond once won the Tour de France by 8 seconds. It could be that important.
It could be so important. It's all down to seconds. The sport has come to such a level now, okay, that it could even be fractions of a second. This man has the most ungainly time trial position and style in the world, but it's probably one of the most efficient.
It is indeed, and Hamilton is not going to lose too much time. Nowhere near Cancellara's time, but only 17 seconds. It'll be rounded up to 18 seconds for the overall classification. That's not a lot. He won't be worried about that. He will be concerned about the form, though, being shown by Armstrong.
2 men left to finish. Number 11, the challenger. 6 times he's ridden the Tour de France, Phil. 6 times he's been onto the podium, never lower than second place in the overall classification. He dearly wants to beat this man, Lance Armstrong, who has been the dominator for the last 5 years in a row.
In 6 miles, or 6 kilometres rather, of the Tour de France, we have already developed a great battle between these two terrific athletes. First and second in the Tour de France. 3 times Ulrich has finished second to Lance Armstrong. He's currently second in the time trial. He'll go back a little bit, but it shows you right now that Ulrich himself has continued to accelerate as he comes up to the line. It is not going to be a race-winning time, though. He's also just trying to conserve time here as Ulrich finishes 15th, just slightly better than Hamilton.
Only one man now can beat Fabian Cancellara, who's not too far away from the finishing straight, and the man who can beat him is Lance Armstrong. The time he has to beat is 6 minutes, 50 seconds, 0.9. Armstrong is watching that clock tick over. Look at that face. The pain is going all through his body. It's telling him, please stop, please give me a break. But look at the time.
Paul,
it's unbelievable.
This is a winning time. As he comes up to the line, Lance Armstrong, who won in Luxembourg in 2002, is going to throw down the gauntlet. You know, that book has made him a very, very angry man. As he races up to the line, he's going to have to sprint. It's going to be desperately close. He's missed it. As he hits the line, 1.65 seconds. Fabian Cancellara, in his first Tour de France, he's 23 years of age, has won the Prologue. In the battle of psychology, Lance Armstrong wins that.
He wins the first battle, but it's going to be a very long war, this 3-week event. Look at that face. Look at the man as he comes up to the line here. That is an absolutely superb ride, and he has, Phil, delivered a serious psychological blow to everybody else. He's announced to them that he is the strong man, but here is the winner. Oh. Here is the new yellow jersey, Fabian Cancellara. Phil, 23 years of age.
I tell you, Paul, this is wonderful. He was born on March the 18th, 1981. He's been a professional since the year 2001. He was a sensational teenage star. He is now about to become a Tour de France stage winner at the very first day of his very first tour.
And he'll probably want this result signed by the entire peloton to put up on his wall. Fabian Cancellara 2 seconds ahead of the defending Tour de France champion Lance Armstrong, with Jose Ivan Gutierrez in third, 8 seconds back. Then Brad McGee, Thor Hushovd, Oscar Pereiro and Jens Voigt separated by another couple of seconds. For Armstrong, though, the real race wasn't with Cancellara. It was with Ulrich, Hamilton and Mayo, and they all had disappointing rides. 15, 16 and 19-second deficits on the American may not seem a lot, but they're a lot over 6 kilometres, and who knows how important they may become down the road. Fabian Cancellara couldn't have cared less about the bigger picture, though. He was on the podium posing for the biggest picture of his life and starting an endless round of interviews, including one with Ned Bolton.
Your first Tour de France, it's your first day of your Tour de France. You couldn't have dreamed that it would end like this.
Yeah, it's more than a dream, because before, when I was young, I have only seen TV and television, the Tour de France, with Miguel Indurain to win, or now with Lance Armstrong. Now I'm here. This is now it's 3 days, and it's all new. It's all special. It's more. It's unbelievable. It's too much.
Now, the Tour attracts its fair share of celebrity spectators. Robin Williams, Eric Idle, Arnold Schwarzenegger last year. However, as far as we know, none of those stars was romantically involved with Lance Armstrong. Sheryl Crow is, and just to help him keep a low profile, she's tagging along this year. Ned Bolton caught up with her before the start.
I think cycling is like what rock and roll probably used to be like when the Stones were in their heyday. I mean, now rock and roll or music has become sort of, I mean, it's kind of silly, really. They're great personalities in the sport, and you really get to know who they are, and then you start following them like you do, or you would have your music idols. And people are very dedicated and very emotionally committed to their cyclist, and it's not dissimilar than probably what it used to be like. I think with Lance's situation, he has the opportunity, and certainly the capability, but the opportunity now to do something that's never been done before, and that's, I think, as history goes and as originality goes, there's nothing like doing something that's never been done. I think everybody really wants him to win, just to see someone do something that it has always been seen as the impossible. You know, you've had great cyclists before win 5, but this will really be history in the making, and if anybody can do it, it would be Lance. And I think also we've gotten the opportunity to watch Lance grow as a person through his career, and that's something we all relate to. So I mean, I'm probably more nervous about it than he is.
There was plenty for Sheryl to be nervous about on stage 1, which was officially flat but actually featured 5 small climbs and the kind of squally weather that has crash written all over it. It also featured the novelty of Lance Armstrong wearing the green jersey of the points competition leader, courtesy of coming second in the Prologue. As winner on the opening day, Fabian Cancellara was officially leader of all categories, and since he couldn't wear all the relevant jerseys, Lance was forced into his cast-offs. Well, the crashes weren't long in coming. Mario Cipollini went down off camera, possibly the first thing he's done off camera in his entire career. Then Jens Voigt and Frank Renier simply pointed themselves at the grass verge when they realised they had no chance of making this corner. Worse off was Austria's Bernhard Eisel, who seemed to lose traction on the white lines in the middle of the road before touching somebody's back wheel and going down. Fabian Cancellara was up front at the intermediate sprints, protecting his yellow jersey. Remember, there are time bonuses of 6, 4 and 2 seconds for the first 3 riders under the banner at each of the designated sprints out on the road. And with Thor Hushovd starting the day just 10 seconds behind him, he couldn't let the Norwegian champion go unchallenged. Hushovd took the 6 seconds here, Cancellara 4 for second place, a 2-second net gain to Hushovd. At the next sprint, though, Cancellara was second again, with Hushovd nowhere to be seen, so 4 seconds back to Cancellara. With bigger bonuses available for the first 3 riders across the line at the finish, though, Cancellara and his Fassa Bortolo team couldn't afford to relax. As we join commentary with less than 5 kilometres to go, they're riding hard at the front of the pack to try to reel in a 2-man breakaway consisting of Denmark's Jacob Peel and Mark Wouters of Belgium.
2 kilometers to go, that sign will tell the riders, and unfortunately when they take the next left-hand bell, it goes right the way up towards the finishing line. It's a long, hard line, a long, hard final kilometer. Cancellara on the front, shadowed there by Matteo Tossato, and not far away at the back end of that blue line will be Alessandro Petacchi. And all of the sprinters, Phil, will be fighting to get into his wheel, and it looks to me like now it is all over for the two leaders, and that is tough.
At 1.5 kilometres from the finish and a long straight up to the line shortly, they have pulled back those two leaders. There is the catch as they come round that left-hander. So close, yet so far. Wouters looks across at the bunch. He'll see what he expects. The riders from Fassa Bortolo leading the charge as they are caught. And now it's AG2R for Kursipuu, who has come to the front. That's thrown a big spanner in the works for Fassa.
A lot of sprinters in the Tour this year. You can see the big organisation coming from AG2R, but they're getting swept away. They don't have the firepower of Fassa Bortolo, and there's still a lot of blue and white jerseys of Fassa Bortolo on the front end of the main field. There is a line of pink jerseys too there as well. That's Team Mobile. That is the team of Eric Zabel. Eric Zabel will be looking for the victory, but there's a good organisation coming in for Fassa Bortolo. They're looking for the final kilometre. They're kicking up the pace. This is a routine they put to success in the Giro d'Italia on 9 separate occasions. Eric Zabel there, Phil, is trying to get the jump up to the wheel of Alessandro Petacchi.
He's got it under 1 kilometre to go now. Zabel has got the first pink jersey we can see there. Also Stuart O'Grady's trying to burst in onto the scene, and Jimmy Castro is there. Also Thor Hushovd has started to bounce his way up towards the leaders. Wiped away now, the names we've talked about. Lance Armstrong, Jan Ullrich taking a back seat now, because this is a matter for the sprinters. You don't get mixed up with the men of steel who have no nerve, who won't win the Tour de France, but they can win these stages. Zabel is to the right, Danilo Hondo is there, so too is Fabio Baldato. This is going to be one terrific sprint.
Well, coming up through the middle there, you can see Baden Cook as well, the man who won the green jersey points competition last year. The blue jersey of Gerolsteiner is Danilo Hondo. Thor Hushovd has moved up into second position. Everybody is looking for position, and I think Alessandro Petacchi is out of place.
But Thor Hushovd isn't. Hushovd is on the left of our picture here. Kursipuu running in the centre of our picture now. This could be a tremendous result, and Robbie McEwen coming late on the line. I think it's Kursipuu, so does he. Boy, McEwen came late, but he could have stolen it on the photo. He won a stage of the Tour of Switzerland when the other guy thought he'd won this year. Robbie kept going. I think I'm going to give it to Kursipuu, but that was desperately close, and Hushovd was right there as well, and he will move right up the overall classification, probably to second. Now, there is McEwen on the right. This is Jan Kursipuu pushing to the middle. Hushovd is over to the left. The camera needs to show us down below. We're not interested in this because we need to know where those wheels are.
Look at the face of Jan Kursipuu. I'm pretty sure he knows with confidence that he was ahead. Let's have a look from the helicopter angle here. Hushovd starting the sprint there on the right-hand side. He's got a great line there, right up against the barriers. That means nobody can overtake him on the inside, only coming round the left-hand side, which is exactly what Jan Kursipuu is trying to do. Kursipuu admirably set up here by his teammate. A last lunge for the line here coming by Robbie McEwen. McEwen is up alongside the Estonian rider, but as you can see the lunge for the line, it was too desperate. Jan Kursipuu gets win number 1. Nice move by him.
Well, the helicopter shot confirmed it. Jan Kursipuu just ahead of a fast-closing Robbie McEwen, with Thor Hushovd in third. Fabian Cancellara's teammate Alessandro Petacchi, the world's leading sprinter this season, was back in 8th, apparently having lost the fight for position in the home straight. All the contenders for overall victory finished safely in the main pack, so no time gaps there.
Jan, before this stage everyone was talking about Petacchi, but you were the man who crossed the line first.
Normal, because he has so many victories this year, and as well Tom Boonen. And well, maybe they were too much marked, and I had a little more liberty maybe. And that and the sprint as well suited me, because with a little uphill and with a headwind. So this is a sprint, not very fast sprint, but you need to have much power and strength. So that suited me as well.
Trailing in 6 minutes behind Jan Kursipuu was Brad McGee, one of the pre-race favourites for the Prologue, now a leading candidate for first rider to abandon. A second day on the podium for Fabian Cancellara, though, and after the yellow jersey he promised his mum, he can now start thinking about who gets number 2. Afterwards, he spoke to Ned.
Fabian, you said you wanted to stay in yellow. You've done it. How does it feel?
Wow, I'm happy. I'm think almost more happy, because another day in yellow jersey is it's very good. It's crazy. It's a crazy day. It's crazy these 2 days too much crazy, but it's good. It's a good feeling, and I hope I can this have tomorrow after the stage another day.
Well, a look at the general classification shows that Cancellara's lead has doubled. He started the day 2 seconds ahead of Armstrong. Now he's 4 seconds ahead of Thor Hushovd. Hushovd picked up an 8-second bonus for being third on the stage, and if Fabian hadn't battled for all those intermediate sprints out on the road, he might have lost his lead. Lance Armstrong now slips to third, 10 seconds back, not that that'll worry him, and his lead over his main challengers remains the same. Now, stage 2 looked like being another long, windy day's work for the Fassa Bortolo team, chasing down breakaways to keep their man Cancellara in the yellow jersey. Bad news for Alessandro Petacchi, who would really rather have some fresh legs in front of him for the sprint finish. Mario Cipollini wouldn't mind some fresh legs either. Unfortunately for the world's former fastest man, he's stuck with the ones he's got, and they're now 37 years old. But although he's not as quick as he once was, Chippo still packs a mean wardrobe, and it's good to have him bringing some colour back to the Tour after 4 years away. Here's Ned.
Yes, the Lion King is back. The big Italian with the understated personality and the shy, retiring racing style has returned to his old hunting ground. It's fully a decade since Super Mario won his first stage on the Tour de France in 1993, and in the following 6 years he notched up another 11, the last of which came in '99 when he blasted to 4 consecutive wins in the first week of the Tour. One of those was the fastest road stage in Tour history.
Of course, there are always 3 traditional questions which we always used to ask of Mario Cipollini. Number 1, how many stages will he win?
Per me riuscire a vincere soltanto una tappa varrebbe come vincerne 10, perché sarebbe una dimostrazione di caparbietà, di voglia e di capacità nel voler ottenere un risultato.
It'll be tough. Gone is the big red train, the hallmark of his dominance throughout the 90s, the distinctive sight of half a dozen scarlet psychos bearing down on unsuspecting French towns. If he's going to do it, much will depend on his new teammates at Domina Vacanzi. No glorious Technicolor, Cipollini is now in black and white. Gone too is his youth, now 37. Age has not withered him, but it's probably slowed him down a touch. Add to that the emergence of Alessandro Petacchi as the new chip off the old Chippo block, and he's in for a struggle. Petacchi has been sweeping all before him. Quadruple stage winner last year at the Tour, he's just come back from 9 stage wins in the Giro d'Italia.
Petacchi credo che sia estremamente all'altezza, una squadra imperniata su di lui, esce da un Giro d'Italia estremamente vincente, per cui sarà sicuramente il faro di questi sprint e noi cerchiamo di rendergli la vita più difficile possibile.
Number 2. What awful sort of clothes will he wear, and how much is it going to cost him in fines?
The undisputed world wardrobe champion has picked up where he left off. His controversial full spandex all-in-one body hugger, which he donned for Saturday's Prologue, was deemed just too all-in-one for the Tour. At the age of nearly 40, he was forced to wear shorts for the day. Extreme measures, but the Tour simply wouldn't allow him to start without the intervention of the scissors. Just another clothing crime in a long list of previous offences. The mellow yellow, the stars and stripes, the green machine, and how could we forget Julius Caesar? Gone too are the long locks that could launch 1,000 attacks and sell 1,000 coffee machines.
And finally, exactly how far up the first mountain will he give up?
The answer, of course, is not very far. The slightest twitch on the altimeter and Chippo's heading for an early bath. And by the way, don't believe him when he says,
per accontentare i giornalisti, i media e gli sportivi una volta per forza bisogna arrivare a Parigi, speriamo che sia l'anno buono.
Chippo has never completed the Tour, and just when you think it'll end in tears, with him it normally does. A nice little side bet might be the battle for the back seat in the broom wagon between Petacchi and Chippo.
So given that this is almost certainly Mario Cipollini's last appearance at the Tour de France, like that final one for the road, enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, it'd be nice to see Chippo register a win before he retires from the Tour, but stage 2, 197 kilometres from Charleroi to Namur, was developing nicely for his successor Alessandro Petacchi and for Fabian Cancellara. A 6-man break was out front, none of them a threat to Cancellara's race lead, so Fassa Bortolo could relax, let other teams do the chasing and save their legs to set Petacchi up at the finish, providing the break got caught. As we join the race, they're approaching the final intermediate sprint of the day. Inside 40 kilometres to go, and with a lead of 1:45 over the chasing pack.
Looking here now at Christophe Mongeon, still a member of the 6-man leading break. Mark Scanlon sitting right behind him. Now, somewhere in the distance is the last sprint of the day for those small time bonuses, the small prize and a small number of points for the green jersey competition. And it looks as though it is going to be a rather nasty uphill sprint this last 500 metres.
Going to be tricky. You can see once again on the front there, Christophe Mongin is the man leading it out, looking over his shoulder. Scanlon in second position. Pinot in third. But they need to watch out for the man who's been 100% successful so far. The rider from Cofidis is in the ideal position here to surprise him.
What he'll have to do if he wins this, he's got to hang on. Oh, there's been a mass crash at the back of the peloton here. One of the Domina Vacanzi riders down again. I'm just trying to see who it is, but well, it's certainly not on this occasion.
It's Fanini. That's the lead-out man for Mario Cipollini, who's gone down there quite dramatically.
Gian Matteo Fanini. Meanwhile, while he sits in the grass back at the front, Jakob Peel leads out here, but he's going to get pipped again. And this is a fine piece of sprinting by Cofidis, as indeed Edelin makes it a hat-trick. Back to the crash, Fanini.
Perron. That's Andrea Perron who's gone down there for Team CSC. There's somebody else who's rather seriously injured. Is still at the side of the road there, Gian Matteo Fanini, who's pretty hard hit. Fortunately, he was able to dive across, I think, into the side of the road and get himself into the grass. But this is rather dramatic for Mario Cipollini because he is an ideal. And Andrea Perron, let's have a look here. There's a Phonak rider gone down as well.
Well, let's hope it's not Tyler. It doesn't look like Tyler Hamilton. A 1-2-3 stepping off his bike there. That was Anthony Chateau. Gerard Porte, the doctor here, just checking on Fanini and again checking his collarbone.
That's the biggest injury. All bike riders fear this when they go down, just because of the way that you go down. That is the bone that more often than not will crack, and I think it might be the situation here that this man could have just snapped his collarbone.
Well,
this looks like he's getting up.
I think this is they're called in the doctor's car there. It looks as though he might be out, and this is a big blow for Cipollini, that's for sure.
Well, with less than 25 kilometres to go, the inevitable happened when the pack, led by the sprinters team, swallowed up the six-man break, and everything was in place for a big bunch finish. The man with the most to gain from it, though, was in trouble. Torhushov, to credit Agricole, just 4 seconds off the race lead, remember, was involved in a crash that damaged his bike and forced him to swap to a replacement that didn't seem to suit him. We pick up the action 11 kilometres from the finish.
Sounds like there's another problem. Heras has had a problem at the back end of the main field. Roberto Heras has been, his name is crackling over race radio to say he's got a mechanical problem at the back end of the main field. Let's not forget this man who believes he can beat Lance Armstrong this year has lost already 37 seconds. And at 10 kilometres to go, to have a mechanical problem and try and get back into the race is a very difficult call. What has happened, we're not getting this on camera, we're getting this on the referee's channel on the radio. He's actually swapped bikes with one of his teammates.
There he is. And he's being paced back immediately up there by Jan Ruska, who is a member of the Czech Republic on the Liberty Seguros team. Jan's a very good rider on the flat, very good time trialist, and he's going to hurt this man, but there's no little soft ride up to the bunch now. They are flat out. It's race all the way and rejoin quickly. Oh, there's been another crash, and Seiko have got a man down now. Well, this is amazing the way this is happening, and looking at his number, this is Stefano Casagrande, who makes a return after a few years out of the Tour de France. Perhaps it's not the time to remind him of that.
The action and the excitement is really on the front end of the main field. Everybody is taking risks now. The arms are coming off the handlebars. Heads are being used to keep themselves in position. Baden Cook is right up at the front end of the main field. You can see now Kim Kirken moving up into third place. He's got the national champions jersey of Luxembourg on his shoulders, but he is well and truly a Fassa Bortolo rider.
I tell you what, the big heads of the race here have got out of the way. Lance Armstrong, Jan Ulrich, Mayo, Zubeldia, Tyler Hamilton, they're all taking a back seat now, because this is the front row in the afternoon matinee, and the man driving with tremendous speed is Cancellara. I think the legs are slowly now having to give best. Cofidis take over.
Cofidis take over, but it's still a lot of blue and white jerseys of Fassa Bortolo on the front. Kim Kirken here looking great. He's all over his bike. He knows he's got to bury himself for the next 500 meters or so, and when he swings off, he knows that one of his teammates will take up the pacemaking. This is how you lead out a big sprint. But look, you can see in about 8th position, a long way back still, Alessandro Patacchi is slightly boxed in. He's got a number of riders from Gerolstein and moving up through the outside. Fassa Bortolo right now need to kick it up a notch.
Well, the Fassa Bortolo boys have got control, but here comes Gerolstein, who've got a big sprinter in Danilo Hondo. That's not Hondo who's got there yet, it'll be the helpers, but look at that sweep round to the right now, momentarily out of range. Here they come back into view now. Fassa Bortolo been split up here by the Gerolsteiner team, and Eric Zabel is still in there, the 6 times winner of the green jersey. Hushoff a little bit further down. This is going to be one terrific sprint.
Hushoff needs to move up right now if he's going to get himself the yellow jersey at the end of the day. Don't forget he needs to finish in 3rd position, but now they're kicking up to the line. There's going to be a long sweeping left-hand bend. Alessandro Patacchi has got Eric Zabel right on his wheel, but in fact Freddie Agricola taking over supremacy.
Well, look at this now, because Hushoff is being led here to a yellow jersey. First 3 will be good enough on the bonuses. The lead out now, and again Alessandro Patacchi has been moved out of it a little bit. Hushoff is finding himself in a perfect position as they swing now towards the finish. Hushoff must kick here. This is going to be a tremendous result. There's been a crash and a major pile up there as the riders go through, but keep your eyes on the front because Robbie McEwen is taking it. McEwen always comes out best when the going gets rough. Hushoff is the new maillot jaune of the Tour de France, and McEwen in Belgium gets the result, and he leaves behind the debris.
Well, he gave warning on stage 1, Robbie McEwen, and he timed it perfectly on stage 2. No need for a photo. Thor Hushoff was even happier with 2nd, and Jean-Patrick Nazon took 3rd. For the 2nd day running, though, Alessandro Patacchi was a disappointing 8th. With Gian Matteo Fagnini out nursing a broken collarbone, Mario Cipollini had no help in the sprint. He came in 10th as a freelance, while Lance Armstrong and the rest of the overall contenders avoided the home straight crash and finished safely in the same time as the winner. Well, he's been overshadowed by Alessandro Patacchi for most of the season, but Robbie McEwen was timed today at 66 kilometres an hour coming across the line. Ned Boulting caught up with him at the bottom of the podium steps.
2nd yesterday and a stage winner today. It's all working out beautifully for you, isn't it?
Yeah, yesterday I was a bit disappointed because I felt really great in the sprint, but I ran out of road to be able to catch Kisipu. Today I started fairly early, and yeah, if you're not feeling really good, you don't win from that distance. I think I hit the front at 2:50 to go, but I felt great and I was able to go all the way through to the line, and to get one in, a stage win, in the first 2 days is great, takes pressure off now.
And you had special reasons to dedicate that stage win today as well.
Yeah, true. An ex-teammate of mine, Steve Vermont, he unfortunately passed away last week and was buried today. So for him and his family. And also for my teammate and roommate, Nick Gates, who couldn't start today because he injured himself yesterday.
So a great day for Robbie McEwen, but as far as the standings go, 2nd place was more important today. Thor Hushoff took it, and the 12-second bonus that comes with it was enough for him to leapfrog Fabian Cancellara and take 1st place. Cancellara, who did his bit at the front, delivering Patacchi to the finish, is now 2nd, and 2 good days for Robbie McEwen move him up to 3rd and Lance Armstrong down into 4th. By the way, riders can't lose time for crashes inside the final kilometre of the race, so Kurt Asler Arvidsson keeps his 15th place, and all the other big names are where they were in relation to each other. So Thor Hushoff is the 2nd yellow jersey of the 2004 race, the first Norwegian, as well as the first man named Thor, I believe, to lead the Tour. However, he almost didn't make it to the finish, involved in that crash with Frederick Bessy.
Like 15k to go, I had somebody touch my bike and the bike broke down, so I had to change it, and the whole team went back to get me back on, and that was so hard. I was already then tired, but last 5k I recovered, and Julian Din did a perfect lead out, took me up to the perfect position 200 meters to go.
At that stage, you must have thought it would have been tough to end up in the yellow jersey.
Yeah, after I had a problem, 15k to go, I said, I think it would be hard to be top 3, but I'm in good shape. I've got a lot of power, and now I show. I took my 12 seconds, and now I'm in yellow.
This is the infamous pavé, the cobblestones of northern France, and tackling them on a road bike is like trying to pedal a pneumatic drill. The big difference being that at least with a pneumatic drill, you're the one inflicting damage on the road. This terrain forms part of Paris-Roubaix, perhaps the most famous one-day race in the cycling calendar. So for the Tour organisers, it's simply a matter of paying their respects. To them, each one of these cobbles is a unique piece of cycling history. To the riders, though, they all look the same, like a trip to casualty. In fact, there were only 4 kilometres worth of cobbles on the 210-kilometre stage, split into 2 sections. But everyone knows the kind of carnage Paris-Roubaix regularly produces, and the bunch was extremely nervous approaching the first stretch of pavé, all trying to get to the front where it was safest.
There is a lot of work being done here now as they try to defend the front of the peloton. Just look at that long line, and there's been a crash. There is another pile-up again at the back, that in fact is Noval, who was moments ago driving the charge.
I saw that number and all of a sudden I thought it was a #1. It looked very much like #1, but it is Benjamin Noval. This is the kind of accident that can happen, and this accident must have happened pretty close up to the front end of the main field. This is Iban Mayo, who's gone down, number 31. Now this is a very important moment. We had said that the cobblestone sections and the run-up to the cobblestones was very dangerous. Iban Mayo does not have any teammates around him as we speak, and in fact 2 or 3 of his teammates went down in that incident. He's going to have a major battle right now to get himself up to the rear end of the main field.
While the Tour doctors dealt with the aftermath of the crash, the front of the field was already on the cobbles, with Lance Armstrong protected by a full retinue of US postal workers. Behind them, Euskaltel had regrouped to try to pace the bruised and bloody Mayo back into the race. Torhushoff, the yellow jersey, was in the same group, but the gap was widening, not coming down, which meant there was going to be a new race leader at the finish. The most likely candidates were the men who started the day 2nd and 3rd, Fabien Cancellara and the Tour's informed sprinter, Robbie McEwen.
2 kilometres from the finish now. The big sprinters are still here. Robbie McEwen is here, Danilo Hondo, Jean-Patrick Nazon, and of course Alessandro Petacchi, who's looking for revenge today.
The team that's got the biggest organisation, though, is Gerolsteiner in the pale blue jerseys there. They're looking over their shoulders to see the position of Danilo Hondo. Jean-Patrick Nazon is not too far away. He won the final stage of the Tour de France last year, if you remember, on the Champs-Élysées, the one that all the sprinters want to see. Now they're at 1.5 kilometres to go. It is straightening up. Robbie McEwen is a long way back,
miles
too far back. I think for the moment he's going to panic, but Robbie is a clever bike rider. He'll wait for a slight slowing at the front end of the main field and take advantage of that to catapult himself up into the top 5.
Well, he is an awful long way back. If he wins this, it would not surprise us. He's a very talented bike rider. There he is there, the green jersey sitting on the back wheel, I think, of Voigtler there, probably Kim Kirken, actually, a Luxembourg champion, similar colours to the champions of France and Holland. But Kim Kirken it is, and in fact McEwen has got his wheel. Now the big lead out though is coming for Danilo Hondo here, the 3rd wheel of those 3 boys. A little bit of an early swing over because Hondo's being left now, and Jean-Patrick Nazon and Mark Scanlon are both moving up here now. This is going to be a tight sprint, and Robbie still is not in the frame as they line up for the finish now. Hondo gets the big lead out. This could be a great win for the German if it happens. Jean-Patrick Nazon digs on the left of our picture now. Now Hondo goes here. Hondo launches for the line, but there's a big fan. Robbie McEwen no way through, or is there? Oh, it's a shame the cars come in the front view here, because there's McEwen off to the right now. As we try to look over the top of the car, McEwen is digging in, and if he hits the line first, and I think he's going to, he's got tremendous power, McEwen, on the line now. I think that's Jean-Patrick Nazon who has taken it on the line. That is a great result. McEwen maybe 3rd or 4th, and I don't think that's good enough, but we'll have to see how the maths work out on that one as to who leads the Tour, but the winner is Nazon.
The winner was Jean-Patrick Nazon, making the first stage finish in France a home win ahead of Eric Zabel. But more importantly for the race overall, Robbie McEwen took 3rd, and the all-important 8-second bonus that went with it. Lance Armstrong's group was just behind them, but nearly 4 minutes had passed by the time Iban Mayo struggled in, facing the prospect that his Tour challenge might be over just 4 days into the race. Robbie McEwen's Tour, though, was getting better by the day. He'd finished 2nd, 1st and 3rd on consecutive days, and the bonuses he picked up along the way were enough to put him into the race lead by a 2nd ahead of Fabien Cancellara. The leading big name was still the biggest of all, Lance Armstrong in 5th, and the time gaps to his major rivals were starting to open up. Closest to him were 2 Americans, Rabobank's Levi Leipheimer and a rejuvenated Bobby Julich riding for CSC, both within 10 seconds. Jan Ullrich was another 5 seconds behind them, just ahead of Tyler Hamilton. The climbers Francisco Mancebo and Roberto Heras were over half a minute down, but the big loser was Ivan Mayo, who in the space of a stage had slipped to 101st place, 4 minutes and 7 seconds behind the man he beat in a warm-up race for the Tour just last month. Robbie McEwen, by the way, did double duty on the podium, taking the green jersey as leader of the points competition, as well as the yellow of race leader. Well, whichever country he was riding for, Robbie knew he'd only be in the yellow jersey for a day, because stage 4, 64.5 kilometres from Combray to Arras, was the team time trial. Not really the speciality of his Lotto squad, but right up the street of the big guns like US Postal. Now, it's a funny event, the team time trial, sort of a cycling equivalent of tax breaks for the rich, whereby a big star on a strong team can gain significant advantage over a talented challenger who can't quite afford the same supporting cast. In 2003, for example, Lance Armstrong won the Tour over Jan Ullrich by 61 seconds, and 43 of those came from the team time trial. His advantage over Ivan Mayo in this event was closer to 3.5 minutes. Now, to their credit, the Tour organisers have recognised this problem, but instead of having the gumption to simply drop the team time trial, as they did for a few years in the 90s, they've introduced rule changes to limit the amount of time each team can lose on the stage. That is to say, they're loath to lose the colourful spectacle of 9 men riding in formation in skin suits, but they'd rather it didn't have too much effect on the outcome of the race. Here's Ned Bolting to explain.
Race management in consultation with the stewards. Well, just when you thought the rules governing the team time trial were complicated enough, watch out, they've just got a whole lot more complicated. Now, pay attention, the gentleman will say this only once.
The new rule is very important for rider because it's not obligation and the finish on the winter. The delay is very, very long. Now it's possible. The new rule is finish. It's on the top is 3 minutes. Et on peut j'ai pas un peu pensé between two teams it's possible 20 seconds. On fait example, the first team time is 0, the second team 50 seconds. 15 seconds is possible to time in the classical general is 15 seconds.
So basically what that means is that if, like Lotto Domo, who lost 4 minutes 53 seconds on the team time trial last year, you're frankly no good at it, then why bother putting any effort in at all? The worst that's going to happen to you is you're going to lose 3 minutes. Big deal.
In fact, there is a little more to it than that. The most time the second place team can now lose is set at 20 seconds. The third place can lose no more than 30 seconds, and so on, all the way down to that maximum 21st place time limit of 3 minutes. The confusion is so abundant that not even the riders themselves have fully digested the facts.
Teams like our team, we spent a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of equipment to build a team that can go fast in climbs and on the flat. And, we really put in a big effort to make our team trial working good. And now it's all limited. I mean, nobody really seriously is talking about having a 2 minutes 30 limit on LPS time trial. I would like that. Why is that? No, the climbers, they cannot lose time in a team time trial. But us, the big and heavy guys, we lose 6 minutes, 8 minutes on a time trial on LPS. So we should then have 2 minutes 30 on both time trials, or just forget about it.
The upshot of it all is that once more in the Tour's long history of tampering with the rules, uncertainty and possibly amused bafflement will be widespread. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Which is more than the riders could. This shot shows you just how fortunate they were that there was no rain on the cobbles on stage 3. No such luck on this stage though, and the early teams were all having trouble in the driving rain. Race leader Robbie McEwen wasn't out of trouble even after he'd finished. On the way back to the team bus, he had the indignity of being attacked by souvenir hunters, or possibly very young eBay merchants who were after his bottle. Well, Robbie's quick to lose his at the best of times and gave them a lesson in manners by taking it back off the chief culprit and handing it to a more respectful young fan in front of him. Not so sure about the English lesson he gave them, though.
Hey, c'est toi le pays, le carbone? Hein? C'est toi le pays, non? Voilà.
The best early time was set by the Spanish squad, Illas Balears, who came in with a time of 1 hour, 13 minutes and 18 seconds. With the teams going out in reverse order of their rankings in the team competition, US Postal were last to start. At the first time check, after 19 kilometres though, they were only 5th fastest. And their Tour novice, Benjamin Noval, had dropped off the back, leaving 8 men to take their turns at the front. By the time they hit the second time check, the weather had improved substantially, and so had they. Through the 41.8 kilometre point, they had the best split time, 28 seconds faster than the leaders in the clubhouse, Illas Balears. As we pick up commentary, the next team to finish will be Jan Ullrich's T-Mobile.
So as T-Mobile come up now, it's 1:12:55 and counting.
It's going to be a very fast time here for these riders as they come to the line. Now then, this is the time that they've got to beat, 1:13:18. They've got to go round these corners very quickly. Team Mobile are not going to do it. They will not get it there this time, but they will go very close indeed.
Well, this is an incredible sprint for the line. They've just slipped behind Balears as they come up to the line, but they're in second place, 1:13:22 for T-Mobile. They really did pull that one out of the bag.
Tyler Hamilton's team here, still looking strong, but they're down now to 5 riders. I cannot believe this. This is bad. This is panic on the streets of London, or should I say panic on the streets of northern France.
Well, you say it's panic, Paul, but their time is improving since they've lost their men. They've gone through in second place. What they've done now is throw out all their cards. They can't lose anybody else, otherwise they've got to stop and wait.
The Team CSC are catching a couple of riders who were dropped from Team Phonak a little earlier. That's Santiago Perez, who's being caught there, and Nicolas Jalabert. And they will just try and ride to the finish now and make sure that they don't get eliminated. But Team CSC are doing a fabulous job here. They were well down in the 15th place at the first time check, and they're pulling themselves up now into the top 5.
There's the times of the leader at the bottom, 1:13:18. It'll be a big call, but I think it's just possible, this, as they come up the rise and make the left turn onto the cobblestones. They could snick it by a couple of seconds. They're going to have to put a bit of a sprint in, but what a turn-up. The problems this team has had on the road, and to produce this ride, this has been absolutely remarkable. And as they come to the line, the clock will give them best time, 1:13:10, incredible.
That is unbelievable. This team has had 5 riders for the last 15 kilometres. The majority of the work must have been done in there by Tyler Hamilton. There is Oscar Sevilla, babyface they call him. He's looked like a 15-year-old for the last 10 years, but he's a man that Tyler Hamilton can really count upon in the big mountains. This is a huge bonus this afternoon for Tyler Hamilton and Team Phonak. Let's not forget, first participation in the Tour de France for this team, which is why Hamilton switched across.
It looks like settling the 4th. Bobby Wisely saying just take it easy. We're not going to worry about second on these cobbles. As they swing into the home straight, nobody's going to fall. They cruise to the line here. Do they hold 4th? It's going to be close, I think, because they were 5th at the last check, and they've just got about enough time to get to the line here for 4th. And that, after all their trouble, simply brilliant. 1:13:49, 4th at the moment.
Absolutely magical performance. Just to remind ourselves, Phil, at the first time check, Team CSC was 12th place, 58 seconds down off the leaders. They have done one of the performances of the event. When you add in all of the mishaps and misfortunes they've had out on the course, this has been a great ride by this team.
Absolutely outstanding. The face there, the study of Bobby Julich, who is refining himself. Once a 3rd place finisher, let us never forget that, in the Tour de France in 1998. Well, there are 2 teams left. One we've never seen at all, Fassa Bortolo, but they're not featuring at all. But I can now tell you that US Postal at the 3rd check is through 1 minute and 8 seconds ahead of Illas Balears and clearly in the lead.
Wow, that is unbelievable. 1:08 at 56.8 kilometres covered.
Here comes Fassa Bortolo. They're nowhere in the hunt at any of the time checks. Life has not improved for them. They're not interested in the overall classification. They're hoping that Alessandro Bertacchi will find his sprinting legs very shortly and start winning stages for them. 9th at 1:14:55. Here they come, no need to worry. The big Commander-in-Chief, George Hincapie, brings them around the corner. It is a magnificent time as they race up towards the line. Hincapie, Paul, he should play poker for a living. Look at that face. And look at Armstrong too. Into second place now. The first 5 get the time. They all will get the same time. Lance Armstrong is back where he's been for 5 years. The leader of the Tour de France.
In the yellow jersey, Hincapie enjoying the victory. Look at his face now. Lance coming to the front. Look at that smile. It's
incredible.
As wide as the Pacific Ocean as he crosses the line. The fastest time of the day, 1 hour, 12 minutes, 03, 53 kilometers an hour. Thank you very much. Look at that smile. Superb.
Tell you, Paul,
team did this.
There were moments early on I thought the crowd had gone home, but can you hear them now? This is the most popular man in France as well. You read so many things against him in the press. Sometimes the journalists should go out and speak to the public.
All smiles and high, low and medium fives among the 8 US postal finishers. But Lance was already dried off and addressing the world on television by the time the 9th came in. Benjamin Noval, the Tour rookie, rolled home 13 minutes late for the celebrations. It was a great team day, though, for US Postal, albeit not as great as it would have been last year. Have a look at the 2 columns of times here. The first one shows the real time gaps between US Postal and the teams behind them. The second shows the adjusted times using the new limits for every place in the pecking order. So despite beating Phonak into second place by 1 minute and 7 seconds, US Postal's official winning margin was only 20 seconds. Last year, Armstrong would have gained 1:19 on Jan Ullrich of T-Mobile. This year, it's barely half that at 40 seconds. And it's the same all the way down the line to Euskaltel in 8th place, who effectively get 1 minute 15 back on their real deficit, cut from 2:35 to 1:20. The one fact of the day not open to reinterpretation by calculator was that Lance Armstrong took over as race leader, although even that was a byproduct of the stage win rather than the main objective. At this point, having the race lead isn't something he's going to want to waste precious energy defending. Now, the team time trial always gives the general classification a top-heavy look, and this year it was no different. The top 5 places all occupied by US Postal, with Jose Enrique Gutierrez and Tyler Hamilton of Phonak the only outsiders in the top 8. And here's how Armstrong stacked up now against his rivals for the race overall after that result. Hamilton was the closest serious contender, 36 seconds in arrears. Jan Ullrich now 55 seconds back. Bobby Julich, Francisco Mancebo and Levi Leifheimer were all grouped around the minute mark. Then there was Roberto Heras at 1 minute 45 and Iban Mayo nearly 5.5 minutes behind the leader. So the first yellow jersey of the race for Lance, the first souvenir cuddly toy of her Tour career for Sheryl Crow, and the first and who knows possibly last experiment with adjusted timings for the team time trial event. Now, as much as he was happy to win the team time trial and open up gaps on his major rivals, Lance Armstrong wouldn't have been too thrilled to be wearing the yellow jersey. To other riders, it would be a career highlight. To Lance, at least at this stage, it was almost more trouble than it was worth. For one thing, all the other squads looked to the leader's team to control the race, and trying to defend the jersey means chasing down every madcap attack that goes off the front. Lance would have preferred to be back in the bunch in civilian clothes, keeping himself and his team fresh for the mountains, where the next big showdown with his rivals was going to come. So if anybody fancied taking the jersey on stage 5, they were welcome to come and have a go if they thought they were hard enough. And a long stage after a tough team time trial is the perfect opportunity to get a jump on a tired peloton. Stage 5 was 200 kilometres from Amiens to Chartres. It was another difficult day on the road, windy and rainy and littered with crashes. Brad McGee didn't actually go down in any of them, but he did get off. FDJeux.com's Australian rider had been suffering all week with a bad back and finally conceded that it wasn't going to get any better on a 3,400 kilometre bike ride. As we join commentary, the inevitable breakaway is out front, and there are some good riders in it. The Australian Stuart O'Grady, Sweden's Magnus Backstedt, Jakob Piel of Denmark, who's been in just about every break since the Tour began, and 2 Frenchmen, Sandy Cazard and Thomas Voeckler, riding in the colours of the French national champion. And Voeckler is the highest placed man in the classification, 3 minutes behind Lance Armstrong. So if the break stays away, he will be the new leader of the race.
They're all starting to look back now. O'Grady's in an ideal position. He's going to force Jakob Piel to lead out the sprint. 1,000 metres to go. It's a long way. The 2 others are just about to make contact.
There
Sandy
we
Cazard
go.
comes back.
Now, if I was one of those, I'd have gone straight for it, and I wouldn't have wasted wasted time, and there he goes again, and Peel again grits his teeth. All 5 men at 900 metres are back. Maggie just hasn't got it. He's going to be 5th.
Maggie's on the rivet here this afternoon, but it's now 4 riders. Vukler very nervous. He's used a lot of energy to attack here. Jakob Peel in 2nd position, trying to get some breath into his body for the final explosion up to the line. Sandy Cassar has been very clever. If he's got anything left in those legs now, he needs to launch the counter-attack. O'Grady looking over his shoulder, waiting to see if Maggie Backstead is going to come back. Very nervous. They're losing big time now. O'Grady moves up into 1st place. If he opens the sprint, Maggie's going for it. He's got not much left in his body, but it's one last little attempt.
O'Grady takes a look at Maggie. He wanted somebody in front. He needed a win. He's got the biggest man in the race to hide behind now. This could be a perfect finish. Stuart O'Grady is the pure man. It's a track finish, this. He's the ace rider on the track. He's won medals there at every colour, Commonwealth and World Championships. Now goes Sandy Cassar. Is he going to upset it? Now comes O'Grady on the inside. O'Grady grits his teeth, takes on Cassar. Nobody will beat O'Grady in a finish like this. The Australian remembers 1998, takes it on the line. Peel is 2nd, Cassar is 3rd. The Maillot Jaune of the Tour de France, Vukler is 4th, and Backstead finishes 5th.
Well, 12.5 minutes later, the main field arrived, and there was another sprint to pick up the bonus points for 6th place. Robbie McEwen, the leader of the green jersey points competition, nabbed them ahead of Yannick Tombak and Thor Hushovd. And there's confirmation of the result. O'Grady winning the stage, but 4th place more than enough for Thomas Vukler to take the yellow jersey, with the group containing Lance Armstrong and all the other leading contenders coming in 12 minutes 33 seconds down. First man on the podium, though, was the stage winner, Stuart O'Grady's 2nd win in the Tour, 6 years after his first in Grenoble.
Stuart, many congratulations. That was quite a stage and pretty extraordinary conditions as well.
Hard conditions, very, very hard. That really sucked.
What, you didn't enjoy it?
No, not really. I mean, you enjoy it because you're out there, and definitely enjoy it now because I've won. But yeah, I mean, it's just a hard slog. It's just a big psychological battle, you know. You're always looking around to see if the other guys are hurting. The blockhead wind, the rain never eased up. It was just a hard day.
Well, the Stage 5 result changed the general classification beyond all recognition. While Lance took a day's holiday, that 5-man gang had broken into the top of the standings and established squatters' rights. Thomas Vukler in particular looked as though he was going to prove difficult to shift, with a lead of 3 minutes over the 2nd place man O'Grady and 9.5 on Armstrong, who'd slipped to 6th. There were no changes in the time gaps between him and his challengers for overall victory, although of course everybody had been bumped back down the order by the 5-man break. Well, it was common knowledge that the yellow jersey was up for grabs for anyone who got into the right break on Stage 5. Thomas Vukler took advantage of it, and that's why he was the new race leader. Stage 6 took the race down into the Loire Valley, 196 kilometres from Bonval to Angers. The 2 big Italian sprinters in the race were already heading home, Alessandro Petacchi and Mario Cipollini abandoning without a stage win between them. Well, the weather was improving, but the road safety statistics weren't. Lance Armstrong came down in an early crash, and as part of their contractual obligations, a couple of teammates fell off with him. He was soon back on the bike, though, and back in the race. As we join commentary, Spain's Juan Antonio Flecha is out front on his own, trying to win with a solo escape for the 2nd year running, but the pack is bearing down on him fast as he powers towards the finish.
There is the gap now. You have to feel sorry for Juan Antonio Flecha. That's all he's got left after a breakaway of 170 plus kilometres. 5 solitary seconds, and they're about to gobble him up.
The eagle has landed. I think the vultures are in the trees now, ready to pounce on that lone man at the front. He has been pulled back into the fold for a crazy moment there. I thought he was going to survive. He sat up right now inside of the last kilometre. He's being caught. Now look at the movement on the right-hand side. You can see riders now trying to set the sprint up for everybody. I think there's been a crash in the final kilometre as well. 1 or 2 riders have gone down. I can't see the yellow jersey. I can't see. This is what's happened. This is at the red kite. 1 kilometre to go. They'll be given the same time.
Well, it's very, very close. If that is the kite, there'll be a big argument as to whether they get the same time or not. Some of those boys aren't the right side of the kite, but we don't know where Lance Armstrong is. He's not here, that's for sure. We think they'll all be given the same time, but let's get back to the action at the front here now. Zabel is right there in the pink jersey trying to break in here, but I'm not sure. That looks like Scarponi trying to have a little bit of a dig in second place. Zabel, this is the sweep up the hill here now. No sign at all of Robbie McEwen this time out either. Tom Bowman in second place, and boxed in was in fact Jean-Patrick Nazon. Bowman is in the perfect position here to take this one. Now he digs in, the quick step rider. This is the win he has wanted, and he's not going to relinquish this. Tom Bowman gets his first victory in the Tour de France as he hits the line, right on the line. Stuart O'Grady, Paul Sherwin's tip, has got second.
Good ride by O'Grady. He recovered overnight, but there's absolute carnage at the back. We're looking to see where the leaders of the Tour de France are. Here's Hincapie, and there is Armstrong right behind him. Armstrong is in second place. I should think there is Oscar Sevilla as well, but this accident happened right underneath the 1 kilometer to go banner, so we should all have exactly the same time at the end of the day. I haven't seen Tyler Hamilton, I haven't seen Jan Ullrich come up to the line, but I think fortunately that accident happened, Phil, at 1 kilometer to go exactly. Oscar Sevilla went down there. He's just looking at his hip. He must have gone down quite heavily. Let's have a look. There is Floyd Landis coming up through the finishing line. We're looking for a pink jersey. There's the yellow jersey of Thomas Vuckler. But as you can see, that accident was right plumb beneath the red kite of the last kilometer.
Tom Bowman left US Postal so that he could be free to ride for himself instead of Lance Armstrong. And he did that brilliantly here, rocking the bike like Eric Zabel in the final meters and beating the old master at his own uphill strongman's game to take a superb first stage win that promises many more. Stuart O'Grady came in ahead of Zabel too and picked up some valuable green jersey points in the process. Behind the sprint, though, it was chaos. Riders all over the road at the 1 kilometre banner. But it was the 1 kilometre banner that saved them all losing time, because according to race rules, any rider who crashes in the final kilometre of a stage is given the same time as the main field. The irony being that that particular rule is there precisely to discourage people taking unnecessary risks in the run-in. But that was no consolation to Robbie McEwen. The crash didn't cost him any time, but it stopped him sprinting for the points places, which meant Stuart O'Grady's second place was enough to deprive McEwen of the green jersey by 2 points. In the end, though, all the day's drama did absolutely nothing to the overall standings. The Stage 5 escapees still held the top 5 spots ahead of Lance Armstrong 9.5 minutes back in 6th, and the time gaps from the defending champion to his challengers stayed the same all the way down the line. Armstrong, though, was unimpressed at what he perceived to be the cause of yet another crash.
Coming in, they got the barriers really tight, and you've got 200 guys raging through there at 40 miles an hour. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. I mean, you're going to have crashes, and we were fortunate that that crash was literally 10 meters inside the 1K barrier, our banner. Otherwise, you know, we would have been docked half a minute, and it's just, anyways.
All right. Good.
Bad luck and good luck.
All right.
And look at this, Chris Bouman is down. The time trial has hardly started, the Tour de France has hardly begun, and I think Bouman could be out of it already.
It was 1995 when Chris Bouman crashed out of the Prologue so spectacularly, and it happened in the finish town for Stage 7, Saint-Brieuc. Not a good omen for a race in which road accidents were threatening to decide the fate of the leading contenders.
There's a crash in the main field.
There's a crash. There's about 14 riders down in the middle of the main field. Looking down at the side of the road, the orange jerseys of Euskaltel-Euskadi, there's a number of them gone down very hard.
Well, the man who suffered the most has undoubtedly been Ivan Mayo, who went down on Stage 3 and lost nearly 4 minutes as the pack all fought for position approaching a dangerous section of cobbles. The Spaniard was expected to attack Lance Armstrong in the mountains this year. Now he's so far behind, he'll have no choice. Roberto Heras, another Spanish climber, was also caught up in that crash, but his team paced him back to the main group. Heras has had a good week, staying out of trouble and within striking distance of Armstrong, the man he helped to victory last year and hopes to beat this year.
Crash! Shoot dans le peloton, as the race radio is shouting to us.
Perhaps the biggest story of the Tour was that Tyler Hamilton hadn't crashed. In fact, the man with the loyalty card at Casualty had been busy coming to the aid of his teammate.
Now this is Robbie McEwen who's gone down in the green jersey, and he's probably the best bike rider in the race.
Jan Ullrich has been almost invisible for the first 7 days, intelligently riding close to the front and ghosting past the pilots. The only casualty on Team Mobile has been one of his helpers, Rolf Aldag, who couldn't decide which side of a traffic island to take and ended up going into the man in front of him. There's no doubt this is the most crash-ridden tour in recent memory, and not even Armstrong can claim immunity. Stage 7 took the race up out of the Loire Valley almost to the Brittany coast, 196 kilometres from Chateaubriand to Saint-Brieuc. And almost immediately the tour registered its 100th crash victim, Sven Montgomery of Gerolsteiner, down and out of the race with a broken collarbone. With the points competition so close, McEwen and O'Grady were going at it out on the road. With a two-man break out front, they were both sprinting for third place, and McEwen looked clearly faster. He took O'Grady at the second intermediate sprint, despite the Cofidis man having a teammate lead him out, and repeated the trick at the third. So from 2 points down, he was now 2 points up, and ownership of the green jersey was going to come down to the finish. On the run-in, the two-man break was caught, but another attack of 7 riders was launched almost immediately, and from it, 3 men pulled away. Francisco Mancebo of Illes Balears, Iker Flores in the orange of Euskaltel, and Filippo Pozzato in the blue and white of Fassa Bortolo.
This is a big attack by Flores, and he's spread eagle this breakaway of 7, and there's no sign of the peloton. We are inside 2 kilometres to go. This is the break that will decide the day. Scarponi has come back right up to him. If it comes to a straight sprint, Scarponi surely will be favourite.
Watch out for Filippo Pozzato, who's going now.
Sorry,
this
that's
is a counter-attack
quite
in the
right.
blue and white there of Fassa Bortolo. Dragging himself up there is Mancebo. This man has got a very gangly position, but he's in fine form. He's just dragging himself back up. The group has been split into 2. I'm surprised Paolo Bettini is caught in the second half of the acceleration.
Well, Paolo is a very crafty bike rider. He might well come back yet, but Pozzato's riding his first Tour de France. He's in the middle of these 3 as the Balearic Islands now head for the finish here. This is Mancebo, who's a very good climber, and he's pinching a few seconds over the big boys here.
And he's also the Spanish national champion. Now then, this group has split into 2. Iker Flores is in a bit of difficulty there in third position on the road. Mancebo needs to keep riding. Pozzato is going to be very cool. This man has won a lot of races already since turning professional. He's in second position in the blue and white jersey. He is in the ideal position to take out the sprint. Iker Flores in the orange jersey, just trying to pull himself back into the race.
Well, he is pulling Pozzato to the victory here for sure if he keeps this up, because he wants time over the field. The other boys just want the stage win. Mancebo looks over his shoulder. He'll see Pozzato. Pozzato, by the way, was the rider who finished second to the Irish rider Mark Scanlon in the Junior World Championships a few years ago, and Scanlon also riding his first Tour de France this year. But it looks like Pozzato is setting himself up, coming right on his back wheel, Flores, but Pozzato has gone. This is a very, very difficult finish to go that far out, but I think Pozzato should have the strength now. But look at Flores, no chance. Filippo Pozzato for Fassa Bortolo, then comes Flores, then comes Mancebo, and the pack are right on the heels of the rest of them. But I think Brochard, is he just going to hang on? Well, yes he is, from Sebastian Eno on the line, and the green jersey right there of Stuart O'Grady.
The youngest man in the race and the third Tour debutant to win a stage, 22-year-old Filippo Pozzato, probably knew he had it as soon as he recognised the 2 Spanish climbers he was up against. A great win nonetheless, and much clearer than the sprint for the minor points going on behind him. Tor Hushovd led the bunch home. Stuart O'Grady in the green jersey came across in 10th place, while Robbie McEwen, tired at the end of a long day in the wind, was 13th. And that was enough for O'Grady to hold on to the green jersey by a single point. The competition was hotting up behind him, though. 3rd and 4th, Danilo Hondo and Eric Zabel were also separated by just a point, and Tor Hushovd moved up into 5th. With Thomas Voeckler safely in yellow, the green jersey competition was the main attraction on stage 8 too. 168 kilometres from Lombal west, almost to the coast, and Quimper. At the first sprint of the day, Tor Hushovd took first place and 6 points. Robbie McEwen took second and 4 points. Stuart O'Grady was nowhere to be seen. So McEwen had gone from 1 point behind to 3 points ahead of his fellow Australian. Well, the first of the daily crashes happened with just over 8 kilometres to go. Samuel Dumoulin was the chief victim as the pack left him behind, heading at high speed for another tight run into the finish in Quimper.
Ile Baleares, the Balearic Islands team, have been very aggressive over the last couple of days, but look at Zanini coming round there. There's another crash at the back end of the main field, but we'll stay at the front end of the pack.
We might well switch if our camera gets hold of it, but Vicente Garcia da Costa is pushing on now for the Ile Baleares team. He's been marshalled. He tried it yesterday, remember, and the light blue jerseys are trying to bring up now Danilo Hondo. There's Bettini, and there is the crash, and it's a Cofidis rider, I think, who has gone down. It looked to me as though it was Yannick Tombak. He's a sprinter. Well, he's out of this sprint, but he can, of course, get into the finish. That's really sad, but it seems to me whenever there's a crash, there's a Cofidis boy in trouble. Back to the front, and watch out for the boy in the white jersey with the red spots now.
Stefano Zanini on the front, looking a little bit further back. You can see Paolo Bettini. Gerolsteiner swinging off. Robbie McEwen is not far away. Bettini are about to take up the pace making at the front, but there is the green jersey of Stuart O'Grady. In the middle, the pink jerseys on the shoulders of Eric Zabel. We're getting to the difficult part now. They're looking to see when they're going to notice the 1 kilometre to go. There's still a couple more sprints to go and a couple more corners. Bettini's got the acceleration.
This is the one he wanted. This is a strong finish for Bettini. Koos Moerenhout, I think it is, who's latched up. No, it's Robbie McEwen himself who's latched onto the back wheel there.
Good acceleration there. Stuart O'Grady's been caught out. He's waiting for somebody else to make the acceleration. They're inside of 1,000 metres to go, but that was the move that everybody was waiting for. Paolo Bettini was waiting to pounce. He's leapt off the front, and this might be just the right moment. McEwen right on his wheel.
Well, that's incredible. McEwen has got onto his wheel. He doesn't know what to do here. He wants to win. He's even talking to Bettini as he goes past now. They're inside the last 600 metres to go, and they couldn't open the sprint because of the nature of the finish. McEwen has waited for the field to catch up and retake his place in a crucial stage of the race. Well, McEwen read the move, but Bettini went just that little bit too early now, as we got an attack now by Kim Kirken.
Kim Kirken, he's got the gap of Vasa Bortolo. This would be remarkable. 2 wins in 2 days if he can just hold off the front of the main field. Yesterday was Filippo Pozzato. This is the Luxembourg national champion with a slight gap over the front end of the main field. Crédit Agricole have got their man Thor Hushoff right up there in second position on his wheel. You can just see there tucked in is Eric Zabel, then it's Stuart O'Grady, then coming up there is Tom Boonen. The sprinters may well have just been caught out. This is the corner at 250 metres to go.
They line up for the finish. Kim Kirken looking for win at number 3 of the season, may well have done it right. Thor Hushoff, the reason the boys in green and white have worked so hard, is coming to the front and he's going to get the stage win. It's all worked out for Crédit Agricole. That's what they wanted. Thor Hushoff gets the points. He'll be right up in that green jersey competition. He raced into the yellow and became Norway's first race leader early last week. He started off this second week of the Tour de France in similar style.
Thor Hushoff taking the most macho stage win celebration prize of the Tour to date, after Paolo Bettini had confused everybody by jumping off the front far too early in the King of the Mountains jersey. Kim Kirken was second, Eric Zabel was third again, and Robbie McEwen a crucial fourth against O'Grady's 8th in terms of the points competition. Well, there aren't many people who would look at the weather on a day like this and say, isn't it good? But a Norwegian would.
It was cold today and windy, it was raining, and I was just like laughing about the rain. Sometimes it doesn't care. I was like motivated today because I was waiting for my day, and finally today I did it.
And in the process, he moved up in the green jersey competition. 25 points off the lead at the start of the day, he'd moved to within 11. The lead, though, was still alternating between the two Aussies, and now back with Robbie McEwen, who'd fought back impressively after losing it in that stage 6 crash.
It's always good to be in the lead rather than trying to chase points down. You know, I got in the situation last year where I crashed when I was in the jersey. I was suddenly 20 points behind, had to make it up, and it's really difficult. Now I've crashed again in the jersey this year and, you know, missed out on, 25, 30, 35 points, and now I'm in the lead, but it's only slender, and there's anything can happen yet. There's a long way to go.
All right, let's wrap up the other competitions now, and although the mountains don't really start until after the rest day, Paolo Bettini has usually been first over what climbs we've seen so far. He retains the polka dot jersey, which he's had pretty much since the start of the race. And Thomas Voeckler holds on to the race lead ahead of his fellow escapees from stage 5, with Lance Armstrong, the nearest big name, 9.5 minutes back in 6th. That cushion is going to be pulled from under him pretty smartly once the serious climbing starts, but the popular Frenchman at least has the honour of carrying the yellow jersey into the rest day.
Déjà, c'est une bonne chose d'arriver à la journée de repos avec le maillot jaune, et demain je vais essayer de décompresser un peu dans la tête et puis physiquement. Et après, on va voir comme on a fait jusque-là, étape par étape, tous les jours, voir comment ça se passe, donner le maximum et puis voir au jour le jour.
Well, as I say, it won't take many days in the mountains before the serious contenders relieve Thomas Voeckler of the pressure of being at the top, and here's how they'll stack up coming out of the rest day. Lance Armstrong, the defending champion, is 6th, 36 seconds ahead of Tyler Hamilton, who's 11th. Jan Ullrich is 20th and 55 seconds behind Armstrong. Then come the Spanish climbers, Roberto Heras, a minute and 45 down in 36th place, and Iban Mayo, 5.5 minutes back in 89th. They'll all move up over the next week. Sebastian Joly probably won't. He's already nearly an hour down in 176th and last place.
Yes, thanks, Gary. Just time for one or two questions. Interesting one here from Harry Hailwood, who comes from Barnes. Harry, you're asking how many other riders have made their Tour debut and taken out victory in the prologue, like the Swiss cyclist Fabian Cancellara yesterday. Well, in fact, there have been 4, Paul.
Yeah, the first man to do it was the Italian Francesco Moser back in 1975. A couple of years later, Dietrich Thurau from Germany did the same thing. Then a bit of a gap to Eric van der Arden from Belgium. But then 1994, Chris Boardman did the same thing in Lille, and he set the fastest ever prologue record there at 55 kilometres an hour. And before anybody writes in, David Miller won the opening stage of the Tour de France in his first attempt, but that was a long time trial stage, not an individual prologue.
That's right, not a bad memory, Paul. Anyway, let's move on. Ellen Cheetham from Ufcombe in Devon. Ellen, we seem to get this question every year. Why do cyclists shave their legs? So we thought we'd let Bradley McGee tell you the answer.
I don't know what the traditional role it is. It's definitely just, for me as an athlete, firstly, massaged every day. It just feels clean. It feels right. Yeah, I've been doing it since I was 15 years old, so it's more natural to do it than not to do it. So, yeah.
Thanks, Brad. OK, Ellen, there you are. Let's move on now to Terry Jones from Newcastle. Were my eyes deceiving me, or are Skoda really sponsoring the cars in the Tour de France? The answer is yes. It's the first year of a new contract for Skoda after Fiat pulled out last year. And Susan Johnson from Swansea. How many times has Eric Zabel won the green jersey, Paul?
Oh, you put the pressure on Phil all the time. 6 times, and that's the outstanding record for the moment. And I'm sure Eric would like to make it number 7 if he could this year.
Now, we did cheat just slightly there. The reason we selected that question was because Eric Zabel actually won the last time we came to Charleroi. It was a very special occasion, so we thought you'd like to hear the commentary.
And Zabel is on his wheels. Zarada is taking the middle. Abdu Japarov is digging deep in the middle of our line. Picture, but on the line. Zabel gets it. Happy birthday, Eric. He takes it on the line. What a tremendous finish indeed. That was a win for Eric Zabel right on the line on his 26th birthday. And again, that was one of the finest sprint finishes you will ever see from this great talent of sprinters in a Tour de France stage.
Now, before the Tour, almost everyone seemed to have circled stage 16, the time trial up Alpe d'Huez, as being the day that would most likely decide the outcome of the race. Almost everyone.
I don't think that, let me just put it this way, I don't think the critical stages of the Tour de France are going to be in the Alps. I think they're, for me and in my opinion, in between just us and all the American viewers, I think it goes down before then.
It was unlikely to be going down on stage 9, though. It was the shortest road stage of the race, 160 kilometres from Saint-Léonard-de-Noblat to Guéret, with nothing more testing than a couple of 4th category climbs. But even they were too much for Jan Kirsipuu. The winner of stage 1 back in Charleroi had been suffering before the rest day, and he abandoned early in the stage. 2 riders then managed to escape the bunch. Inigo Landaluze of Euskaltel and Filippo Simeoni of Domino Vacanze. With the peloton putting the hammer down to pull them in on the closing stages, it was touch and go whether they'd survive, and Simeoni's teammates were worried enough to be up at the front, trying to get in amongst the pursuers and disrupt their rhythm.
And you can see anger now starting to come in. These guys are saying, just get out of the way, let us do our job. And Mori there, just on the right-hand side, is actually trying to create a little bit of disalarm in the main field to try and slow them down, break the rhythm. When this happens, tensions start to mount, and 1 or 2 riders can begin to get a bit aggressive. 2 kilometres to go. These riders dare not now start to make any tactical manoeuvring, because if they do, they will get wiped out immediately.
We are talking of slightly more than 1 mile in old money as we race for the line, and the peloton are not being timed currently, but it can't be more than 16 or 17 seconds. These boys are slightly ahead of the rest as they continue now. They are saying 20 seconds at 2 kilometres. Surely that is possible.
It's completely and utterly possible. If these two riders don't start to mess around and look for tactical manoeuvring in the sprint, they could just hang off the front of the main field and probably could see a situation here where they'd be given the same time as the main field, because I think the main field will just come onto their wheels.
A flick of the arm there by Simeone, and Landaluce didn't seem to want to come through there. This is the turn back towards town now to give us the new road eventually that has been specially built for the finish. There is the last 1,000 metres, and the peloton, who have given it their best shot, may have misjudged it by two guys who broke away after 37 kilometres. Now Simeone doesn't want to go through now, and calling him through is Landaluce. Here comes the cavalry.
Charging into town right now. They are looking for the final kilometre flag. There is Stefano Zanini in third place. Right on his wheel was Tom Boonen. Moving up through the middle is the green jersey of Robbie McEwen. Around the corner is the two leaders. They should not get caught. They will, I think, survive over this last 500 metres, but who is going to take out the victory? It's a shame, you know, when you've got a two-man breakaway like this, because somebody has to lose.
Simone's won 7 races in a career which began back in 1995. The guy in orange has never won a race, and this is his 4th year as a pro. They cannot afford to mess around. It's a slightly uphill finish. If you wait, you're dead, because the peloton are on your tail, and it's a big lead out now, and I can see the pink jersey of Eric Zabel looking for the win. Tor Hushoff is brilliantly placed in second wheel, and Robbie McEwen is boxed in that green jersey. Here comes the charge now. Filippi Simeone has got to go all of the way. He can't wait. He's giving Landaluce the perfect lead out. One thing's for sure, everybody will finish in the same time. Have they got the legs? Here comes Hushoff. Here comes Tom Boonen now. There goes the bouncing Robbie McEwen as they get to the line. Landaluce is going to be passed by McEwen and Hushoff one-on-one as they hit the line, and it's gone to the Australian. Robbie McEwen has won the stage at Tour de France.
Unbelievable. You feel so sorry for those two guys who were off the front, but they messed about just a little bit in the last 500 metres, and what a great comeback by all of the sprinters. Robbie McEwen got his wheel across the line, I think, just ahead of Stuart O'Grady, and on the other side, Eric Zabel.
A great finish, and so close that even the winner headed straight for the nearest TV set after he crossed the line to watch the replay and make sure.
Yes! Oh, what a fantastic victory in the green jersey. And after my crash a few days ago, I'm still suffering a lot with my knee, but I was still able to win the stage. It's just incredible.
And as a result, Robbie's lead in the green jersey competition had doubled. Tor Hushoff's second place on the stage was enough for him to overtake Stuart O'Grady. O'Grady retained his second place in the overall standings, though, a few seconds closer now to Thomas Voeckler, with Lance Armstrong still 9.5 minutes back. Usually the opening stage in the mountains is a monster in the Alps or the Pyrenees, an open invitation to the favourites to stamp their authority on the race, which is exactly what Lance Armstrong had done in the majority of his 5 Tour wins. This year, though, the organisers had thrown in a couple of sparring rounds here in the Massif Central, and it was impossible to predict exactly what the favourites were going to do or what they were going to be forced to do in response to a maverick attack. Either way, it looked like being fascinating to find out, and one thing we did know: this was the year that the best climber's jersey, all things being equal, was actually going to be won by the best climber. Stage 10 brought the first substantial climbs of the race, and plenty of them. 9 mountains spread over 237 kilometres from Limoges to Saint-Flour. It was the Tour's longest day, and coincidentally Bastille Day, which meant it was odds-on we'd see a French rider having a go. In fact, it was odds-on we'd see Richard Virenque looking for a record 7th King of the Mountains title. With Axel Merckx for company, he led the race over the first 6 climbs of the day, then accelerated away on his own up the 7th, the first category, Col du Pas de Pérols.
Virenque is just dancing away. He's riding at his own pedal rate, and he's riding at his own rhythm, just making sure that he gets the maximum points where he goes over the summit of this climb. His advantage is opened up quite a lot over the last 1.5 kilometres to 24 seconds ahead of Axel Merckx, but Axel Merckx could very easily pull it all back together.
Looking then over the top goes Virenque, and with the 15 points he gets there, he also gets the lead in the King of the Mountains. Here comes Axel Merckx, and they're not very far apart, so I suspect
you never know with Richard Virenque, in all honesty, but I would expect Richard Virenque to hang on a little bit.
Well, you can see the clock ticking away here on Axel Merckx, and it's going to be around about the 30 to 35 second mark, and it's a kind of distance that can be completely and utterly wiped away over the summit as Axel Merckx takes on board a drink here, and he will probably very quickly be up to maximum. In fact, it's just 40 seconds over the summit there, the official time check coming through.
Well, Virenque is one of the fastest descenders as well as one of the best climbers, and it was obvious he had no intention of waiting and working together with Merckx. As the pack came down off the payroll, there was a nasty crash involving Jan Ullrich's T-Mobile teammate Matthias Kessler, who fell really heavily, cracking a rib and bruising a lung. Amazingly, though, he rode to the finish before leaving the race and going to hospital. Credit Agricole's Sebastianino, though, was even worse off. He fell on the same descent and was helped straight into the ambulance. Out ahead, though, Richard Virenque was closing in on a superb solo Bastille Day win.
This has been one of the most outstanding performances, and we'll talk about this for many years to come. Now they start to cheer, they can see him for the first time. Richard Virenque, stage win number 7, to marry up with the great place names of the Tour de France. Luzardidon, Cauterets, Courchevel, Morzine and Mont Ventoux, and to that he can now add a little mountain top of Saint-Flour.
And I can imagine exactly what his victory salute is going to look to. It's going to be one finger up to the sky when he comes round the corner. Face looking just a little bit drained, but it will be a relaxed face when he comes round this corner. The crowd can now finally see him. It's Bastille Day here in France this afternoon, and it's a Frenchman who's going to win.
Well, what a great tour the French are having. The race leader will stay on the shoulders of the French champion, while the man who has been one of the best French riders, Richard Virenque, his 12th Tour de France, his 7th stage win, he is again the leader in the King of the Mountains, and it's happened in Saint-Flour.
This is really a remarkable performance by Richard Virenque today to go out and cover this course in 6 hours for 240 kilometers. That is an incredible average speed. You can just see the scenes there at the finishing line. He is being absolutely mobbed there, Phil, by the French press.
Well, they all want the very first words to come out of his mouth, and I can imagine it'd be something similar to "I'm pretty tired."
Yeah, je suis un peu fatigué.
Exactement.
C'est fabuleux, quoi. J'étais vraiment au bout de mes forces aujourd'hui. L'année passée, 14 juillet, j'avais le maillot jaune, et aujourd'hui, je gagne. C'est génial pour l'équipe Quick-Step David Tamon, et pour moi, c'est clair. Et simplement, je voulais un peu dédier mes victoires à 2 personnes. À Joël Chabiron. J'ai beaucoup pensé à lui aujourd'hui, qui nous a quittés, et m'a mis lu. Donc c'est un peu pour eux aujourd'hui que dans le final, j'avais des crampes de partout et il était chercher des forces pour eux. Et voilà, 2 personnes s'étaient en allées et c'était un peu pour eux aujourd'hui. Et voilà, un hommage à eux.
1 kilometre to go. It's actually only 800 meters as the big sprint starts now. Now, is Lance Armstrong going to have a dig? Is Jan Ullrich going to have a dig here? I can see Kim Kirken looking over his shoulder, and Ullrich isn't far off the front.
Armstrong there in 5th position there. He's got a teammate right in front of him. I think it was Jose Acevedo. There was a good move coming here from Credit Agricole. Laurent Brochard trying to wing off the front there as they take this hairpin bend. There are around about 600 meters to go to the finish. I don't think that Ullrich is going to let Armstrong sneak away over the last few meters just to get himself a couple more seconds.
Patrice Algon is the rider there, trying to go there with Brochard, but there's a break by Mancebo. The champion of Spain's gone on the left of the picture now, and still Armstrong is trying to move forward here now. Ullrich is just following wheels in the centre. Francisco Mancebo, who's had a great day out today, just nipping points at the mountain summits, he's trying to pull away, but look at this. Thomas Voigtler, the yellow jersey of the Tour de France, is looking for a bonus here. He's being challenged by Clouden, Andreas Clouden. Mancebo, Ullrich is on the wheel there as well, and over to the left. Armstrong looks a little bit troubled here. This is now, no, it's not, in fact,
it's Zabel. Zabel is there. There's a gap to the main field for Armstrong as well. Zabel's just on the back there on the wheel of Clouden. There's Mancebo. There's a gap between Armstrong and the rest of the field. I'm not sure if they'll give it, but there is a definite gap in the peloton.
There'll be no gap there as they come over the line. It will be Clouden, Zabel, Mancebo. There's the split now. It looks as as though they'll give the others, and Ulrich was tagged onto the back just along with Armstrong. With the other boys, and if Tyler Hamilton is in that second half, he may have lost, what, a couple of seconds.
So, a great win for Virenque, which catapulted him up the overall standings, but the favourites didn't all finish in the same time in the group, as they usually do. Tyler Hamilton, Oscar Sevilla and Roberto Heras all lost 7 seconds. And here's where it happened. Right behind Jan Ullrich in the pink and white of T-Mobile, the judges ruled that there was a break in the group, and once that happens, the clock starts ticking. Full concentration by Hamilton and company, which produced the first change in the time gaps between the favourites since the team time trial. Stage 11, not a particularly arduous day, saw another split in the field.
Under the banner, and in fact, as we're watching these pictures, you might be hearing the cheers now. They've just cheered Moncoutier under the 2 kilometres to go banner. It's not long before he'll be with us here on the finishing line.
No problem at all now. He just needs to not take too many risks on the run into town. There are 1 or 2 tricky little corners as he manoeuvres his way into the outskirts of this very interesting medieval town of Figeac. Cross over the bridge, which goes back to medieval times, but now he's in a nice long straight inside of 2 kilometres to go, and he can actually savour his victory here this afternoon because he's got a huge buffer over the 2 chasers, and of course he'll be able to wait for an awful long time before the main field comes charging into town as well.
Well, the long straight road before we swing right and then climb, the nasty little climb up to the finishing line. He won't worry about it now. His gap is 1 minute and 40 seconds. Even down here at basement level, the crowd are packed here, getting a glimpse of yet another Frenchman. There is the kite, the most popular sight by the leading rider of the Tour de France. It means 1,000 metres to the line.
Well, in the outskirts of town right now, and he picks his way through very carefully now. He can actually enjoy the last few kilometres. You can almost feel the pain being lifted away from his body as he now is looking to see the flag that everybody in the sport of professional cycling would like to see, and that is the last kilometre kite, the red kite, Le Flamme Rouge, and he's not too far away from it. And then you can hear the crowd here on the finishing line. They're actually just looking at the big screen here. There's the enjoyment. He knows he's got it, and this is a fabulous move by this young man.
Well, we go back to 1994, and there were 3 French stage winners consecutively. Jackie Giron, followed by Luc Leblanc, followed by one Richard Virenque. That was 10 years ago. Richard Virenque won yesterday, and now Moncoutier is making it 2 French wins in as many days. Wise man, just making sure nobody's coming back at him. Never believe what the judges are telling you in time gaps. Make sure there's nobody in sight, and then enjoy the moment. He's going to win by about 1 minute and 30 seconds on the line, what has been an incredibly quick stage, arriving here some 25 minutes ahead of expected time.
He's going to notch up his win number 11 here, but this, I feel today, Phil, is confirmation of what everybody's always expected from David Moncoutier. Everyone has always thought that one day he was going to be a great star at the Tour de France. Here he's starting to enjoy. He's inside of 100 metres to go. This is his biggest ever win.
You bet your life it is, and of course his first. Let's hear what he's saying to the crowd here. Another victory for France, an incredible ride. Got away with 116 kilometres to go with the other 2. He left them outside of 9 kilometres from the finish, and he's home and giving Coppert his win number 2 of this tour. So they've known every aspect of emotion during this year of sponsorship, but let's hope the 2 stage wins might stop that team from withdrawing the support of cycling.
Well, this is a great way to do it. This is a man that they've invested a lot of time and money in over the last few years, and they've been waiting for him to come up to do something very special at the Tour de France. And after finishing fairly high up in the overall classification, you know, a couple of years ago he actually finished 13th overall in the Tour de France, and they started to tip him as a man capable of getting onto the podium. But that's what he wanted to do today. He wanted to go out and get himself some individual glory. I think a lot of riders in this Tour de France are being given freedom because the big contenders like Armstrong and Ulrich and the rest are waiting for the final week, which is going to be a real serious showdown.
And let's tell you right now, the final week of this year's Tour de France starts tomorrow on the road to the Pyrenees. The last day before we'll call the big famous names, I'm sure of that. You can see the clock counting down now as the 2 Spanish are going to fight out each other for second place today. At least Fletcher's going to get a place on the podium, because when he came into Angers there. He was wiped away in the last 1,000 metres, and he didn't get a victory like he did in Toulouse last year. Fletcher and Igor Martinez. Wayne Martinez is poising himself there. He's going to pounce any second. He's letting the climb up here take its toll on perhaps one Antonio Fletcher. There's the time gap for you. It was an amazing gap in the end. These two boys knew as soon as Moncoutier settled into his rhythm they were not going to catch him, so they didn't even bother to chase him down.
Huge advantage. Moncoutier still a minute and 50 seconds since the Frenchman crossed the finishing line, and these two Spaniards, I think, must really be kicking them. I think we tipped these two guys, either one of them, to win the stage, and we never ever gave David Moncoutier much of a chance.
No, the commentators' death throes, I'm afraid. We chose one of these two to win, so Moncoutier got the great win of the day. Here's the big effort now, and Fletcher has something left at least. Plenty of gas there. Second for one Antonio Fletcher, third for Igor Martinez.
There is Hondo in third position, moving up. They're sprinting for fourth place here, and they're trying to set it up for Eric Zabel. Eric Zabel in an ideal position, not too far away from either Stuart O'Grady, and in fact Robbie McEwen in the green is just a little bit further back.
Well, I'll tell you what, if if Zabel gets this, he'll take the green jersey lead away from McEwen. There was only 10 points between them. McEwen, by tradition, comes late, and he moves to the right. Even Armstrong is mixing there on McEwen's shoulder, but it's given Zabel a great finish here. Thor Hushoff is on the wheel now of Eric Zabel, but now McEwen has got the wheel of Hushoff, but has he got the legs? I don't think he has, because coming up the line it's Hushoff followed by Zabel, and I think just getting in there was McEwen, but he just about hang on to his green jersey there. Armstrong also getting himself mixed up with that one, but wisely just moving out towards the end.
Even people who knew nothing about cycling could tell that stage 12 to La Mongie was important. Sheryl Crow was back on the race, and she had half the population of Europe and a good portion of Texas for company. The slopes up the final climb to La Mongie were absolutely packed, and with good reason. Everybody knew that this was where the face-off really started between Lance Armstrong and the men intent on depriving him of a 6th Tour de France. And the question for those riders, to paraphrase Sheryl, was, are you strong enough to beat my man? The man, as usual, had his own opinions.
You hear stories from teammates and friends of his, or people that are close enough to know, and that say that he's happy to get second. And I'm not saying that as a criticism. I mean, when he gets second, it's like, oh, that's a great race. I got second, Lance was stronger, or the guy who got first was stronger, and I'll take second. If that's his approach, then I think that's great.
What's going to happen to Roberto Heras? Because he was your right-hand man in the mountains. Now, instead of setting the tempo for you, he's going to try and blow you away.
Yeah, well, good luck. Tyler's, he's a contender. You know, I think he needs a lot of things, not a lot, he needs a few things to happen in his favor. But he's certainly a person that can win the Tour. He has to stay out of trouble. He's different than a Mayo who I think with 60 Ks on the final time trial will for sure lose time. Tyler, you won't look at him and say, this guy will for sure lose time, because he can time trial. So, you know, he's one of the favorites. As I've said many times, I think, especially early on in the Pyrenees, when those climbs favor the Spanish climbers, the more that we can have Roberto being aggressive, Mayo being aggressive, whoever else from Spain being aggressive, that's better for us, I think. I think that historically that's a chance that we have to distance Ulrich a little bit, and if those guys are attacking, that's not a bad thing.
Well, it's now day 13 in the Tour de France. It's taken a long time to find the serious climbs of this year's race, and the same man has been in the yellow jersey for 7 days. Paul, they must attack him, but I have a feeling Volker might do well today.
I think Volker is actually going to survive. He's ridden very well. I think he's actually transformed over the last few days. And I think what's impressed most people is, in fact, the way that his team have risen to the occasion. Very often when you get a yellow jersey into a team, it changes the approach of the whole team, and that's what's happened to the Brioche Boulanger team.
Well, Lance Armstrong, of course, he was the last winner here at La Mongie, and he was with Roberto Heras on the same team then. He even asked Heras to slow down because he was hurting Armstrong. Well, now they're rivals, and it could well be a Spanish winner here today, because there's most of the people out here speaking the common language, which is Spanish. And if you want to be more pedantic, then it's Basque. Watch out for Iban Mayo.
Stage 12 was one long, gentle ramp, leading to two massive spikes in the landscape, the Col d'Aspin and the Col du Tourmalet, with the finish 300 metres below the summit of the Tourmalet at La Mongie. But the first action came not on a climb, but on the descent of the Col d'Aspin, when Jan Ullrich, not usually a great descender, opened up a gap that Armstrong had to scramble to close. As we pick it up, though, they're all together on the final climb.
The Kaiser is starting to crack. He doesn't have the acceleration, Phil. He's a huge man on a bike. He uses a massive gear. He cannot respond to the accelerations of men like Armstrong's leaders.
Watch it, wait for it, because Armstrong's building here. Armstrong's realised that Ullrich is in trouble. He's getting round to grab onto the wheel of Acevedo, and once he's got him, we are being treated to the situation of 2 years ago when it was Roberto Heras that looked after Lance Armstrong to the line.
Ullrich now, he must not panic. He has to get into his rhythm. He is capable of losing 20 or 30 seconds in the first few kilometres of a climb, but what he has to do is get into his own rhythm.
And there goes a move, and that's Jacob Peel, I think, who's gone as he tacks now. No, it's Carlos Sastre again. Sastre again has gone for CSC.
Well, he's not a stranger to winning in the Pyrenees either. He's gone to try and see if he can get the advantage, but this just might rattle the cage of Lance Armstrong, who won't want to see riders stealing the glory away from him and his team here this afternoon. He doesn't have to attack, really, Armstrong. He's ridden on the front with his teammates, and they've set a tempo that has basically just eliminated one or two of his rivals. Rivals like Levi Leipheimer, like Tyler Hamilton, and, of course, more importantly, like Jan Ullrich.
The Basque flags fly now as Mancebo. He is 10th overall in the Tour and about to improve.
Been joined there by Ivan Basso. Ivan Basso, I don't think, will do any work at all because his teammate is off the front of this group. He, in fact, is trying to defend the position of Carlos Sastre. Armstrong has not reacted to these accelerations. Now, that is somewhat of a surprise to me. Now, look at this. This is Mayo at the back now, number 31. Looking a bit further forward. There's the blue jersey of Armstrong dancing away through the crowd, making sure he controls everything.
Here we go. This is now a total free-for-all on the slopes of the Tourmalet. We've never seen this before. We didn't see it in the days of Thévenet when he won in 70. He was chased by Eddie Merckx. We didn't see it either when Lance Armstrong won, because he only had with him his teammate Heras and Joshua Bolocki. He's checking over his shoulder to see who's with him. He knows Ullrich isn't. He knows the boys ahead are not going to damage him overall yet. And here he goes. He's building up for a move. As he's not seen Ullrich, he's not seen any of them. He thinks, well, I may as well go and try what happens.
Ivan Basso has responded immediately to get onto the wheel of Armstrong. Armstrong now has to assume complete control. He has no teammates left. He used them all over the flat part of this course before we got to the mountains. Ivan Basso, let's not forget, this man has finished 5th overall in the Tour de France and been the best young rider as well. There it is. I doubt if they'll try and attack him.
I still have to admit that Bjarne Riis has put together a great team for CSC in Denmark here, because they've got two riders alongside Lance Armstrong. They've ridden themselves so hard on the flat as well, and they're still very much in the race.
This is Andreas Kloden on the left-hand side with Francisco Mancebo. I feel this afternoon maybe the leadership of T-Mobile is going to switch across from one rider to another. 2 minutes and 8 seconds from the leading group of 3 down to the yellow jersey. He shouldn't lose it this afternoon. He started the day with a very nice buffer over Lance Armstrong. It was a 9-minute and 35-second buffer, and currently he's lost over 2 minutes of that. Now the acceleration coming from Ivan Basso and Lance Armstrong at the front as they go into the tunnel. It was actually in that tunnel going the opposite way that Sean Yates recorded 112 kilometers an hour going downhill. That indicates to you just how steep the incline is. We've heard his team coach, Chris Carmichael, has said that Armstrong wants to try and get 4 minutes advantage over Ullrich before the final time trial of the Tour de France. He needs to get every minute, every second that he can along the way if that's what his goal is.
Might have half of that today when we see the clock counting, because he is flying up this hill. We're inside the tunnel. Our cameras can't work in those conditions. We'll wait for them to come out. Here they are. Armstrong continues to hold high revs here, thinking of time more than the victory. Coming up to around 500 meters to go to the finish now. Superb ride by Basso. Let's not take that away from him. Look at his face. Which one's got the strength to finish this off? As Lance Armstrong looks for a stage win number 17. If he tries to take this one, Basso hasn't won a single stage of the Tour de France. 500 meters to go.
Now Armstrong looking across. These men are riding mano a mano, man against man, really just pitting themselves against each other, trying to see which man is the strongest as they charge up to the finishing line. But Ivan Basso, Phil, to me, looks very comfortable indeed. But watch out for the rage of Armstrong once he gets close to the finishing line, because I think he wants to get the win here. He likes history. Right. He likes to repeat it.
I think Paulie's going to give us one of those treats of explosive power when he sees the flag that matters. He's cheered all the way up here. Basso, though, has had a tremendous first day in the Pyrenees, and he really has got an awful lot out of the race day. Has he got enough left to take on Lance Armstrong? How often have we seen that familiar style of Lance Armstrong? His concentration is high revving. Basso is just looking at him and straight ahead to see where that banner is, to see should he make the move, and if so, when.
They're both waiting. This has been an unbelievable escapade by these two men, but it's the first time really we've seen a man able to rival Armstrong in these uphill finishes. Now the kick, digging deep, just a little bit closer. They're looking for the banners. In fact, Basso has come into first spot.
He's gritted his teeth here. He's trying the acceleration. Armstrong is putting his toes down. He is holding on here, and I think he is going to have a sprint. He would be looking for stage win number 17 if he gets it. Basso is giving him a long lead out. Armstrong hasn't done a thing about it. Basso gets the stage win. Armstrong gets the same time, a small second place bonus. He won't get the yellow jersey today, but boy, has he done some damage. And a great ride here too by Andreas Kloden.
He's going to be the new leader of T-Mobile tonight. Look at the time gaps, though. We're going to see some serious time gaps here this afternoon. 20 seconds there for Kloden, just coming across Mancebo at 23 seconds. And this is Carlos Sastre, the man who really set it up for Team CSC. This team is going to be well ahead of anybody else tonight in the team race.
Sastre in.
More riders coming up there. You can just get a glimpse there. I think that was Scarponi coming up from Domino Bacanzi in this group. That is Iban Mayo just a little bit further back in the orange jersey. Moving up there, Oscar Pereiro crossing the line, and Santos Gonzalez for the team of Phonak, the team of Tyler Hamilton. Those are names we expected to see here this afternoon, but they didn't make it. Mayo coming to the line, cutting the ribbon just in front of, it looks to me as if that was one of the riders from Phonak as well. A little bit further back. The time is ticking by for one and Jan Ullrich. 1 minute and 12 seconds for the man from Germany, regarded as the most talented bike rider in the world. Phil, a couple of days ago, we were listening to Cyril Guimard, who said it was a bad sign, as we see Simone coming up here. He said it was a bad sign to see Jan Ullrich riding such a big gear on all the flat stages.
Yeah, he did indeed, wasting far too much energy, but he's done that all his life. We're talking a man who's never finished worse than second in any of his 6 Tours de France. Here is Christophe Moreau, promised so much out on the Aspan today, but he's coming in now with other riders like Levi Leipheimer. But looking at the clock, it's counting down to almost 2 minutes now. This is huge losses, absolutely huge. Armstrong is going to feel very happy tonight, but heavens, he's got to go out and do it all again tomorrow. It's going to make a very different stage now. Armstrong hasn't got the yellow jersey like he did 2 years ago. Here comes Jan Ullrich now, and this is going to be very depressing for the big man, because the clock has gone over 2 minutes to Jan Ullrich here. 2 1/4 and counting. That's Oscar Sevilla just about hanging on the back, and I thought he might have done something special as well. Brochard 2. And look at this, as we hit the line, it's going to be 2:26 for Jan Ullrich. Well, they wanted 4 minutes, they've taken 2.5 in one go. Here comes the Maillot Jaune, fighting all of the way. He will still be the race leader tonight. He lost time, we expected that, but he still continues to grow as a man.
This man has gone through all kinds of hell through his body over the last 12 kilometers of this climb, but he's done what he set out to do at the start of the day. He has kept the yellow jersey on his shoulders.
So let's have a look at a stage result that might just have heralded a change of the guard in the upper echelons of world cycling. First, Ivan Basso leading home Lance Armstrong, and third, Andreas Kloden, who left his team leader Jan Ullrich on the final climb to finish 20 seconds behind them. The first of Armstrong's perceived major rivals was Ivan Mayo, 9th man home, 1 minute and 3 seconds behind. Then Jan Ullrich lost nearly 2.5 minutes, Eras nearly 3 minutes, and Tyler Hamilton 3.5 to to an Armstrong who wasn't so much attacking as riding to control the race. Well, he controlled it pretty well, but I think this man was genuinely stronger at the finish. And Ivan Basso, who came here saying he was looking to ride well in the mountains and think about a challenge next year, has put himself into the position of perhaps being a challenger this year.
I feel good, and for sure, for me, is fantastic today. The tour is long, and tomorrow is another day. Now I sleep and talk with my team.
27 minutes after Basso crossed the line, Robbie McEwen did the same, having paced himself carefully to leave energy for a wheelie. Thomas Verkler, author of one of the heroic rides of the day, almost got knocked to the ground by sheer acclaim from the crowd lining the final climb. But against all predictions, he held on to his yellow jersey and well.
Yes, I'm very happy to keep the yellow jersey, but not even for me. I'm proud of the team because they really have done a good job since I took the yellow jersey, but I have no regrets. I gave all I could today.
So this is how the classification looked. Armstrong up into second, but still the best part of 5.5 minutes behind Verkler, with Andreas Klöden and Ivan Basso now 5th and 6th, the pair of them on the same time, 6:33 off the lead. Behind them, Santos Gonzalez was now the leading Phonak rider, over 2 minutes and 11 places ahead of his team leader Tyler Hamilton. Jan Ullrich was 11 places and 2.5 minutes behind his supposed domestique Andreas Klöden. Roberto Arras wasn't the leading Liberty Seguros rider in the race, he was down in 26th. In fact, of the big four challengers to Lance Armstrong, only Iban Mayo was even the highest placed rider on his own team, and he was in 32nd place, 12 minutes off the lead. To the impartial observer, it looked like carnage. Lance Armstrong was still showing a cautious post-race face.
And today we started with confidence and with the intention to win the stage, and I mean, the team was super, as you saw, and so we have the best team. Just a question of whether or not the leader is the best in the race.
Well, he's certainly the best in his team, which is more than a lot of his rivals could say. Here are the gaps from Armstrong to the men who were his main challengers before stage 12, with Jan Ullrich the only man within 4 minutes of him after one day in the Pyrenees. And here's how he stood against the men who might pose the biggest threat to him from here on in. Andreas Klöden, though, is clearly a graduate of Lance Armstrong Media School. This is his reaction to the suggestion that he was now T-Mobile's best hope.
Nein, Jan ist uneingeschränkter Kapitän und ich bin sein Helfer. Ich hatte heute ein bisschen bessere Beine und der Giuseppe Gurini war noch bei ihm gewesen, deswegen sollte ich erst mal vorne bleiben. Und wenn Jan keinen mehr gehabt hätte, keinen Helfer, dann hätte ich mich zurückfallen lassen. Er war normal nicht schwach, er hat gute Konditionen, das Problem ist das Wetter. Wenn es regnet, hat er keine guten Beine und das kennen wir ja die ganzen Jahre. Aber ich hoffe, morgen ist besseres Wetter, wieder Sonne und dann werden die Beine wieder besser.